Welcome, everybody. I'm going to call the regular meeting of the Ojai City Council to order for September 13, 2016. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Lara?
Here.
Councilmember Haney?
Here.
Councilmember Clapp? Present. Mayor Pro Tem Wyrick?
Here.
Mayor Blatz?
Here. And if Councilman Haney can lead us in the pledge, please.
Ready? Begin.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Welcome, everyone in the audience. It's nice to have you here tonight. As I always say, without your presence and your input, we can't do our jobs properly. Tonight we have one presentation, even though the audience or the agenda says none. We do have a presentation that is being spearheaded by Mayor Pro Tem Wyrick and Councilman Haney with regard to water. So which one of you would like to do the introduction?
I will do the introduction. Welcome, and Councilman Wyrick and I have with the help of Angelo, can you please stand? First of all, and can you come to the podium? Sure. I'm sorry. Angelo and William and I met at a CASITAS Water District meeting about 6 to 8 weeks ago, and we all had a lot of things in common, a lot of concerns, and after that meeting, we all got together and through that meeting, Angelo's been kind of like on the team, so between Angelo, William, and myself, we put together this quick little slide presentation or PowerPoint, whatever we choose to call it. But these are some facts that we wanted to share with the community. What we'd like to do is do a continuum on this, and every month actually present these facts so that everyone can see what's happening with our water at the reservoir and at OBGMA. So I'm going to give you a quick bio on Angelo Spandriel. He was born in Oxnard, graduate from University of California at Berkeley with a Bachelor's of Science in Mechanical Engineering. So he has a great engineering background. He's worked at Point Mugu as a mechanical engineer and became head of the environmental testing laboratory there. Since he's left there, he's been in business for himself, and I'm not going to get into his business. What I just wanted to get into his background is the fact that he's a very smart man. And having said that, Angelo, I'm going to let you run with this.
Welcome. Thank you for being here.
Oh, thanks for that intro. That was great. One of my favorite subjects recently has been water, and that's what we're gonna talk about tonight. And we're all in this together, and we really need to recognize that we have a problem, and we should be in this together. Here's a chart that I composed, and it's kind of a busy chart, but I hope you'll bear with me. The top curve shows Lake CASITAS storage in acre feet versus versus time since about 1999. The bottom two curves are rainfall. The lowest curve is rainfall in the city of Ojai, and the center curve is rainfall in Matilahaw Canyon. A couple of reasons I wanted to show those rainfall figures is that rainfall in Matilahaw Canyon doesn't always follow rainfall in Ojai. Sometimes rainfall in Matilahaw Canyon is much higher than rainfall in Ojai. Another fact that you can see here is that it takes a lot of rain to get a boost in Lake CASITAS storage. Rainfall since 2011, as we all know, has been 10 inches of rain or less in Ojai. As a result of that, you can see that the Lake CASITAS storage has been falling steadily since 2011. It's been falling at around 25,000 acre feet per year until we get to this past year, and that's what that little August blip shows, is that we've had a lessening of the draw from Lake CASITAS during that period of time. If we continue on with the kind of rainfall that we have been having, 10 inches or so of rain per year, the lake is just going to continue to drop on that line. It's a linear curve. It's pretty simple to write an equation for it. It's easy to extrapolate results based on that curve versus time.
So Angela, with that, for the public's awareness, that's where the blue line and the red line meet? And is there a date on that?
Well, on the curve, I believe it's 2018, 2019 is where those curves meet. Some data on Lake Casitas, as I said, up until 2015, we've been using about 25,000 acre-feet a year. And to put that into perspective, what actually comes in this direction to the Ojai Valley, we're sending, this past year, we sent around 4,000 acre-feet to Ventura. Evaporation this past year was 6,000 acre-feet. And we all need to pay attention to that evaporation number because it's a big number. Evaporation will gradually get less as the surface area of the lake decreases. But last year it was 6,000 acre-feet. So if we have 4,000 acre-feet to Ventura, 6,000 acre-feet to evaporation, that leaves 15,000 acre-feet left over coming in this direction. What I'm projecting for this immediate past year is that we're down about 4,000 acre-feet, that we're going to be using about 21,000 acre-feet this year, and we can probably attribute conservation to that decrease. That 4,000 acre-feet decrease, if we look at 15,000 feet coming this way, acre-feet coming this way, is about a 27% decrease. So if we look at a 27% conservation effort this past year, it's a good effort. It's a good effort. I want to draw your attention to stage 4, stage 5. Those numbers belong to the CASITAS Water Efficiency and Allocation Program. WEEP is the acronym. And stage 4 and stage 5 are established based on the storage in the lake. Stage 4, according to the WEEP, comes on at 75,000 acre-feet, which is only 20,000 acre-feet away from where we are now. Stage 5 comes on at 65,000 acre-feet, which is 30,000 acre-feet away from where we are now. Projecting the numbers, if we continue to use what we've used this past year at 27% reduction in use, we'll reach stage 4 in September of 2017. Stage 4 basically is a 40% reduction in use. We're at stage 3 now, that's about a 30% reduction in use. So we're going to bounce up 10% reduction in use in stage 4, another 10% in stage 5, and we'll probably hit stage 5 at this rate in February of 2018. And that's 50% cut in water use is what stage 5 requires. If we continue on that trajectory, the lake will be out of water in January of 2021. A lady called me this morning and said, okay, right, I'm understanding your numbers, but what if we really bounce up our conservation efforts? What if we can conserve, instead of 27%, what if we can conserve 50%? And I think 50% is a great goal. It's a significant cut. So I ran the numbers and I'm sorry they're not up here so that you can see them, but I ran the numbers for a 50% reduction. And again, this is not complicated math to do this. And I have them written here. A 50% reduction, well, actually it comes out to a 53% reduction in use. We move the stage 4 to December of 2017, and we move stage 5 to June, I can't read my own writing, June of 2018. So by increasing from 27% to 50% conservation numbers, we're only advancing the stage 4, stage 5 dates by a few months. And the projection for out of water at the new 50% reduction is December of 2021. So we move ahead the dates, but it's not a panacea, it's not a solve everything, even if we go to 50% reduction. I'd like to talk about the Ojai basins because they definitely come into effect here. There are 3 basins of interest. We have the Ojai Basin that's right here with us. We have the Upper Ventura River Basin, and we have the Upper Ojai Basin. This is a chart of the Ojai Basin levels since I think that's from a long time ago, 1940. And this data is accurate as of 3/28/16. It was in the OBGMA reports. The basin has a capacity of 80 to 85,000 acre feet. As of March 28th, 2016, we were at 48% of capacity, which amounts to close to 40,000 acre feet, so we're about halfway there. In 2013, 5,400 acre-feet were extracted from the basin. We have 182 active wells in the basin as of 2014. Golden State Water has 5 wells active in the basin right now, and there are 4 other mutual companies that are pulling water out of the basin. Some questions that we have, and I just don't have the answers to, and so I thought we would not be afraid to admit our ignorance here. But how much longer can the basin continue to produce 5,000 acre-feet a year? We don't know. Assuming rainfall stays the same, there is a basin recharge every year. Even at 10 inches of rain a year, the basin will recharge around 2,000 acre-feet a year. If we're pulling 5,000 acre-feet out, we'll still have a net loss out of the basin of 3,000 acre-feet a year. At what depth or level is the basin water not potable? How far down do we go before we can't drink it or use it? Does the OBGMA have a plan similar to the CASITAS WEEP? That is, as the basin gets lower, is there some plan or some contingency that we enforce a restriction on the use of the basin? And is there a plan between OBGMA and CASITAS that when water levels reach critical, do we somehow have an arrangement to work together to balance the use? For instance, as we have wells go dry, more water is pulled out of CASITAS to make up the difference. So where do we go? We have CASITAS going down, we have the basin going down. Is there some sort of interaction that will help us get through that? The Upper Ventura River groundwater basin has about 35,000 acre-feet of storage, 149 total wells in the basin. We have 2 companies that are pulling water out of the basin. Ventura River Water District, they have 4 wells. Only 1 is currently pumping because of the low water levels in that basin. Miners Oaks has 4 wells, and none of those are pumping because of the low water level. The Upper Ojai groundwater basin is an interesting basin. It's largely unexplored, undefined. There's very little data about it. That I could find. It has about 5,600 acre-feet of storage, and there is one water company there right now, and that's the Sizar Mutual Water Company. There are 96 wells total in the basin, and again, there's limited data available. We don't know for sure what the balance in that basin is right now. I've seen figures of 50, 60%, so maybe 3,000 acre-feet is still residing in that basin at this point. There are 18 public and mutual water companies pumping from the 3 groundwater basins. And the only reason I mention that is because it's just not a simple, oh yeah, let's just look at things and pull in the data. Getting all the data from all of these different places is a tough thing to do. And so we have a lot of people, a lot of agencies drawing water from these basins.
Thank you, Angelo. Can you click to the next one, or I'm going to let Bill speak real quick on state water?
Well, yeah, I mean, we'll have a letter on the agenda to discuss this. I know Russ Baggerly is here to speak to this as well, and CASITAS Water District has on the agenda for tomorrow at 3. The point being is that if you look at all of this data, it's clear that conservation buys us some time, but if the rain patterns stay the way they are, that we need to diversify our sources of water. And the quickest way to buy us a little more time, doesn't solve our problem, but buy us a little more time, is to use some of the state water allocation, basically to take the step that Santa Barbara had to take years ago, did take. And there's a lot of detail in all of this, but the point being is that it is a step that can be taken hopefully in the next few years. And there aren't any other really steps for significant diversification of water supply that can be taken in that short of time. I want to make one parenthetical comment. If you look at the OBGMA, I believe it's a true statement that if you look at that, if you remember that chart, and a lot of people have seen that chart, that we've been lower than we are now in the OBGMA basin, but never since CASITAS was completed. I think that's a true statement.
Anything else?
So I just wanted to follow up real quick, and we will talk about the state water project. And we're very glad that Russ is going to speak to it also, but that the CASITAS Water District has actually gotten on board with the thought process of entering into the conversation with the city of Ventura and the other parties. That's one thing I wanted to say. But the other thing I wanted to clearly communicate to the public that The state water project is not a panacea. It's a short-term gap that might give us some more water while we try to figure out what the long-term solution is. And as you can see by the graph, and we're going to put this up every month, we're going to talk about it every month, we're going to clearly demonstrate to the community where we are, what we're thinking, and what actions we're taking. And I think it's important that we do this. And that's why we started this tonight with this. One other thing is we are going to bring guest speakers in to actually speak to specific questions and concerns that we might have. And one of them is going to be the director of their water management agency out of the city of Santa Barbara, because in 1992, they did put together a water project. They did tap into the state water, and they did do desalinization. So he'd be a good person to come and talk, just to give us an idea of where we are and where we're going. So with that, Mayor, thank you, and Angelo,
very much.
thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Mayor Blatz?
Yes.
To follow up, I did have a comment to make, and thank you to Angela for that presentation. During those presentations that Mayor Pro Tem Wyrick and Councilmember Haney will be putting together, I would like to see if we could address some of the questions that Angelo presented on his slides, and also see if we could, it's interesting that the Upper Ojai Basin there's really no information on that, so I'm wondering if there is somehow an ability for us to get more information on that, on the Upper Ojai Basin. So I don't know if you have that answer or not, but just as a follow-up comment. And I appreciate and thank you, guys.
All right. Thank you. We're going to move on to the next item on our agenda, which is public communication. This is a time when the council hears from you, the public, on items that are not specifically on our agenda. And I would appreciate it if you could keep your comments to 3 minutes or less, as we have approximately 10 cards, and that takes a half an hour. So we're welcome to hear your comments, and there's nothing that we can really do with regard to your comments tonight unless it's an emergency item, but we can perhaps put it on a future agenda if we feel it's important enough to do so. So the first speaker's card is from Deborah Pendry from the Ojai Green Coalition. Hello, Deborah.
Hello, Mayor Blatz. Thank you. Deborah Pendry, representing the Ojai Valley Green Coalition. We wanted to give you some coalition and community updates. The California Coastal Commission estimates that 80% of the debris on California beaches originates from inland and then washes out to the ocean. Last year, Ventura County volunteers collected 10,475 pounds of trash and recyclables from our beaches and inland waterways. This Saturday, September 17th, from 9 a.m. through noon, the coalition, in its 7th year representing the city of Ojai and the unincorporated Ojai Valley, will remove and record litter from Ojai Creek running through Libby Park. So the third Saturday of September each year is the Coastal Cleanup Day. We meet at the Libby Park Lower Tennis Court parking lot off of South Montgomery Street. We encourage folks to come out to help, especially dog owners. This is truly the tennis ball motherlode. More details can be found at OhioValleyGreenCoalition.org, and we'd also like to give a thank you to E.J. Harrison and Sons, who donates bins, delivers them, picks them up, everything for free for all the communities, I think, that participate in this, which is all 10 cities in the county. Then a reminder, the Coalition Solarized Community Group Purchasing Program runs through October 31st. So still going on. Our next Ojai Valley workshop is October 12th, and all details on the Solarized program and the workshop for Ojai is solarizeojai.org. And then for the Santa Paula Fillmore area, our next workshop is October 4th, and that website for details is solarize126.org. And if you've been thinking about solar, now's the time before net metering 2.0 kicks in. So that's a new thing to look up on Google. Okay, finally, CASITAS Municipal Water District is hosting a regional drought summit on Thursday, September 22nd. The summit will include water purveyors from Western Ventura County, a panel of speakers from Ventura River Watershed Water Districts, and a question and answer segment with the audience. The event starts at 6 p.m. and will be held at the Oakview Park and Resource Center, 555 Mahoney Avenue in Ojai. They do ask for an RSVP, and you can go to casitaswater.org for that. As we know and we've been talking about, the Ojai Valley is in a very precarious position on water supply, and we must come together as a community to live within our water budget. But first, what is our water budget? Inquiring minds want to know. Thank you.
Thank you, Deborah. Our librarian, Ron Solizano.
Hi, good evening, members of City Council. So my name is Ron Solorsino. I'm the Ventura County Library System's Regional Librarian for the Ojai Valley. And I just wanted to come here real briefly tonight and tell you about something that we're real excited about, actually, a recent change over at the Ojai Library. We recently got connected, several of our branches, to the Scenic Network, which is a high-capacity connection designed to meet the internet traffic needs of our modern users. In the words of the Scenic organization, let's see, Scenic connects California to the world, advancing education and research statewide by providing a world-class network essential for innovation, collaboration, and economic growth. So what that means for our local library users is that whoever's using our desktop machines or our Wi-Fi is able to take advantage of this network to do whatever it is that they've come to do, whether it's job hunting, working on personal projects, coding, watching movies, what have you. And they can do this at speeds that are going to greatly enhance their experience. We have school kids that come in to do research for homework. We have adults who take online classes. We've had artists who have come in to upload videos, upload photos, and and in addition to this, we have all the people who want to use all of our online resources, our ebooks, audiobooks, and all of that. As of right now, the library as a whole, the county library, provides 230,000 downloadable ebooks, tens of thousands of e-audiobooks, a comprehensive and abundant selection of music for streaming or for download, digital magazines and comic books, and thousands of movies, documentaries, and TV shows that are all available for viewing. All of this is accessible for free to our community. All you need to get it is just a library card. So if you'd like more information on this, you can always drop by the library, or you can visit our website. The Ojai Library is open 7 days a week, and the e-library can be accessed from www.vencolibrary.org. So if you have any questions now or any time, I'm available, and thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Ron. James Smallwood.
Mayor Bratz, members of the City Council, thank you. Good to see you this evening. At the last City Council meeting, I presented a mission statement for water for the City of Ojai based on my experience of having my own company for the last 20 years, distributing water and wastewater treatment systems and working directly with farmers, local government, and environmental engineers Bill Wilson and Henning Gatz. I understand that some of the key points in that mission statement may be utilized to address our current severe water crisis, and I'm pleased to hear that. I started 20 years ago, and we have a proprietary way to remove sodium from groundwater. What that means is, and we've done some trials, we're able to grow food using saline groundwater, say of 1,500 TDS, which is the amount of salinity normally fatal to plants. And we've grown barley and buckeye on 1,500 TDS water. We've grown corn in Mexico, in the Gulf of Mexico, on 30,000 TDS water. And we grew Bermuda grass in a lab in Texas on frack water, which is 300,000 TDS, which is fairly impossible. So this is a non-chemical way of doing this. It gives farmers and communities the opportunity to use saline groundwater and offset their dependency on fresh water for growing crops and irrigating. I also represented PAL Water Systems. We put a system into, it was a plating shop in Santa Barbara, treating arsenic, cyanide, and heavy metals. And we treated the rinse water there that's usually discharged to the sewer. We treated that rinse water, we removed the arsenic, cyanide, and heavy metals, and he reused that rinse water over and over again and went to zero discharge. There are systems like this that can be used, and why that's important is he wasn't bringing in fresh water for rinse, which reduced the amount of fresh water that was being used for, for things like that. A number of years ago, I also brought Bill Wilson to the city of Santa Paula. We introduced a VerTreat system. It's a wastewater treatment system. It's actually a deep shaft, so you go vertically instead of horizontally, and it's a system that can actually non-chemically treat wastewater. You can use the solids for land application, and you have clean water for irrigation. So it's a non-chemical way of treating wastewater. And my other colleague is Henning Gatz. He has a company called AquaCare. He designs and installs economic and efficient wastewater treatment reuse systems for businesses which produce high levels of solids. And those systems produce clean biosolids, clean solids, and clean water for irrigation, like for a golf course, for example. So I want to thank you again for considering and incorporating some of these key points. I'm going to continue to work with farmers and work with communities to employ saline groundwater that is normally not being used for irrigation, and reduce the demand on fresh water, and use groundwater that it normally isn't being used because it's just too toxic.
Thank you, James.
Yeah, thank you.
Hold on, Mayor Pro Tem Wyrick.
One comment. Mr. Stallwood, I want to just tell you how much I appreciate the information that you've been delivering to the City Council. There's only so much I can absorb, or any of us can absorb in any given time period, but please keep it up.
Yeah.
All right? I really appreciate it. And number two, you really put your finger on a couple important things. One is that effluent is part of the answer.
Yes.
It just is going to be. And we're going to have to change our attitudes towards effluent and how we use it, period. I think Orange County is almost using almost all of its effluent now as part of potable water supply after appropriate cleansing through the aquifer, for example. And then second of all, do you have any sense of what kind of costs are you coming in per acre foot, order of magnitude relative on the saline treatment on the water for agriculture?
The system that we have designed and built, it only costs about $5 a month to run this system.
I always think in terms of acre
yeah,
foot.
it's hard to put that in numbers,
I'll
but
call you.
yeah.
We don't want to use everybody's time. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you very much, James. Johnny Johnston?
Mayor and Council, I am here to do possibly one of two or both things. I may owe the Council an apology. I brought a subject up during the candidates forum concerning the selection of the city manager, and I noted that it had been 4 months and there had been no action. The mayor made the comment that steps were being taken, but then I picked up a rumor from what I considered to be a reliable source that said that there would be no recruitment and selection process for the city manager. My background, as many of you know, includes city management for a dozen years, including the city of Ojai and the city of Ventura. And if the rumor is true that the council is considering not going through a formal open selection process, I would urge you to reconsider that decision with no disrespect to your interim city manager, who may or may not be an applicant. But as a city manager, I know that the legitimacy of the position weighs heavily on the selection process. And since there are only two positions normally that a city council hires, city attorney and the city manager, I would suggest that you commence your recruitment and your selection process with a clear set of criteria for the expertise that this city is going to need to deal with the kinds of problems we discussed at the candidates forum. So if I'm not asking for any comment, and I realize you can't comment on it, but I would hope you would seriously consider that if in fact you are considering not using the selection process. Thank you.
Thank you, Johnny. Norm Plott, our fire chief, welcome.
Mayor Blatz, distinguished members, City Council, Norm Plott, Division Chief, West County Operations, Ventura County Fire. I just want to take a quick moment to give a shout out to Villanova High School. On Monday, over 40 students led by a freshman named Matt Brock put up 2,977 American flags on the field there at Villanova High School, representing all the people that lost their lives during 9/11. It was a very moving service, and the fact it was the students out there that took the time on a Sunday to come out there, place those flags, and have a ceremony on the first day of school on Monday was very moving and inspirational. And we in the fire service and public service really appreciate the dedication of those students. And second of all, today we had just a little bit of a scare at the top of Gridley Road. We had a fully involved trailer fire at the bottom of Gridley Canyon in total alignment with the slope, and luckily it was a cooler day today with some lighter winds, but it did go past the trailer into about a half an acre of brush. But quick response by Ventura County firefighters and the United States Forest Service kept a very small footprint on that fire and kept it from escalating. And last that I'd like to comment is that the Ojai Fire Station was highlighted on a 9/11 ceremony that they do at 6:50 in the morning on Sunday morning, and it's on our Facebook page if anybody wants to look at it. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief. I don't have any other speakers cards for this part of the agenda. Is there anyone else wishing to address us? I see a hand back there. Come on. Come forward.
I submitted a card.
Yeah.
Good evening,
Oh, I
Mayor
didn't see
Blatz. It's okay. Council members, staff, and community. At 5:30 this evening, out in front of the pergola, a group of people stood in solidarity for the people out at Standing Rock. And people donated clothing, blankets, jackets, and we're looking for more donations. People can contact me for now. There's going to be a Facebook page put up. There's over 3,000 people out there in North Dakota right now with the Lakota people. While I was in Libby Park, I was appalled at the disrespect that the community people who hang out in Libby Park treat the earth. Can we consider putting a ban of no smoking in Libby Park? Because there are cigarette butts everywhere. There's no containers for people to put them out, but that's still no excuse. The trash cans are right there. So it's really one of our pet peeves, and where the Green Coalition is probably have seen a number of that also. I'm thankful that they are coming together and doing the cleanup here. But that, it's a public park. There's no drinking allowed there already. That's banned. And there's children right within distance of the smoke. So that might be something to consider. So I just wanted to, again, put that out. And as for people wanting and wishing to donate winter clothing, blankets, very heavy winter. The Dakotas get severely cold, 33, 34 degrees below zero at times. They're going to stay there in solidarity, supporting the people there at Standing Rock. Can call 646-6214, which is my number, and I can relay that message. People left today right after our rally with a truckload of supplies and wood and food from local Farmer and the Cook and other places. So we thank the community for that support. So thank you for your work, too. Good evening.
Thank you, Julie. Anyone else? Yes. Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just a brief comment. Thank you, Ms. Toomey-Sandley, for your comments on the smoking. Just for everyone's knowledge, smoking is not permitted in any city park, so it's an issue of enforcement, and we're happy to look into that. So thank you for bringing the concern to our attention.
Okay. Thank you. Yes. Hi, Brian.
Hello. Thought I had a speaker card, but I'm here as a member of the Board of Trustees for the Ojai Valley Museum. I'm standing in for our fine Executive Director, Wendy Barker, and just a few things to bring to the public. The Ojai Collects exhibition is still going on. It's wonderful. Please come see it. It will close Sunday, September 25th. This coming Sunday is a town talk featuring our own Terry Hill from the Historic Preservation Commission, talking about all of the beer steins that he's preserved on the shelves in his house. So Beers and Steins, Drinking Vessels of Days Gone By will feature Terry Hill talking about his fantastic collection of unusual beer steins. There's a preview in the Ojai Collects right now. I'm told, I'm not a beer drinker, but I know this is important to people. Beer will be available courtesy of Topa Topa Brewing Company during the question and answer section of the Town Talk, which means that question and answer session is going to get even more interesting. So thank you all very much.
Thank you, Brian. Anyone else wishing to address us? Yes, come forward. Okay, come forward.
Mr. Mayor and council members, my name is Patricia Cardinale, and I am coming tonight to talk about Libby Bowl. And I was at one of the first meetings when we were first talking about getting Lance Sterling to help promote shows there.
That's going to be an agenda item.
Oh, that's what I was asking.
That's right. That's why I have your card under that agenda item.
Okay, that's why I said.
So we'll get to you. Thank
Okay,
you.
good.
Anyone else on any non-agenda item? No? All right, I'll bring it back to council and have council members' reports. Councilmember Clapp, anything?
I was reflecting on what was brought forward about the process for the city manager recruitment, and we really haven't been informing the community our process and how we're doing this. And I think that that's really important that we do. And maybe we've been remiss in not being more direct with the citizens about what our process is going to be, whether it's open recruitment or whether it's inside recruitment, and that's what causes rumors. So I think it would be a really good idea to have an open discussion about what our process is being.
There is a time and place for everything, so your comment is well taken. Anybody else with a report?
Couple of things. I attended the Ventura County Transportation Commission meeting last Friday. Really, it's all house cleaning stuff. The only thing that stood out was possible takeout of some safe call boxes. There's a plan submitted by the Transportation Commission staff, and before anything is taken out, the plan will the plan will be passed by the Sheriff's Department and the Highway Patrol, and also Caltrans, to make sure that we don't remove any call boxes that will cause any type of issue for people that are driving. And the second thing that's of interest, I wasn't able to attend last minute the Southern California Transportation Policy Committee, but I did follow up and I did read the agenda. And there was something in particular that is probably of interest for the city of Ojai, is that Southern California Association of Government is putting back a sustainability grant program that is not only open to public agencies, but also school district, public and private, for active transportation programs. So this fits right into our Complete Streets. It provides more funding for us in terms, it could either be safe school routes, or it could be infrastructure improvements, whatever it is that has to do with active transportation. The money is out there through the Southern California Association of Governments. And what I liked about this process, that it's simplified and it's not a long grant process. And then just also, I've been attending the Bike Coalition meetings. They are going to be trying school safe routes to school, and the whole intent is just to generate, to see if there's interest in the community, in particular Topa Topa School. And the reason why I'm participating is because my girls do go to Topa Topa. So it's possibly something that we could do with the city. I know that Mr. McClary has been in communication with the Bike Coalition, so he probably has a better understanding than I do in terms of where the city stands on it. But it's something that we should keep an eye on, and I think that Complete Streets would benefit from it.
So,
Councilman Haney?
Mayor, as the liaison to the Ojai Valley School District Board, they're in a deep debate over what to do with either to close schools or to keep schools open. And I was at the last meeting for an hour and a half, and I'm telling you, it's a struggle. It's a difficult debate in the community. I don't know if there's going to be any winners in it, but it's definitely it's definitely going to be a battle out there for them to figure out what to do. One stat that I did want to pull from it is in relationship to what Councilman Lara was talking about, is they did a study on the number of children that at their schools, how many ride bikes and their transportation modes, and 77% of the kids actually are dropped off or driven to school, and 30, the balance left over are the ones that are actually riding bikes or walking to school. So I thought that was interesting in the discussion as looking at schools and looking at school closures and looking at how children are transporting themselves or having their parents transport them. That's another issue and another part of the debate, but the Complete Streets issue might be something that might benefit all of them. It might help them in making or enlarge that discussion. The other thing is we met with the Ojai Libby Bowl Arts and what's the other one? Festival Committee. Don't ask me for the acronym to that because I get lost in it. But we'll talk a little more in depth when we reach the Libby Bowl contract. But we will, as we did as a group, and if any of you were in attendance, the Zombies rocked Ojai. I'm telling you, it was an incredible show. By far the best. Bullful Blues might top it right now. The Zombies are the group. And what was most incredible about them was the fact that their lead singer is 71 years old. I'm drawing a blank on his name, but this gentleman's voice was stunning. Just incredible. So,
Thank you.
Mayor Blas, I thought I would, I know I gave a quick update on the Planning Commission joint meeting about cultural resources, but Councilmember Haney couldn't attend last night's meeting. But just a quick overview. We are working and discussing and implementing the conservation element of the general plan, and we are working through it right now, and there has been just an update on some flow charts. There's been community involvement, suggestions by contractors, et cetera, that we are taking into consideration. Anybody from the public wanting to look at that particular part of the general plan is invited and could also get recordings from the audios that we have from the meetings.
Thank you. Mayor Pro Tem Wyrick?
Real quick, Councilman Haney and I have been working on the Libby Bowl, another Libby Bowl aspect, and that's restoring the sight lines for the lawn area. And we had, Councilman Haney, I want to compliment him and thank him. He devoted some of the software resources of his company. We've come up with a visual that's very cost-effective and very low impact footprint. He circulated that to Parks and Recreation Commission. The feedback was very positive, and we're going to continue circulating that for feedback. But so far, the feedback is very positive. Very important, because everybody that seems to be informed about these matters is that it gets us to the sweet spot in terms of attendance capacity, which is a little more than 900. And so that's been, I want to thank him for being critical in getting that done. We're going to continue getting the feedback for that.
actually, if we can, Mayor, if we can take 5 seconds.
Okay.
We do have a small visual I'd like to show you folks. In fact, if I can have, Councilman Lara, can you pass those? Let me take a couple and I'll give them to the council people, and if you would like to take the rest and give them to the public. Too many committees, folks, too many committees. So briefly, this might, I've got three drawings, but let me start with this one. It might be the easiest one to see. This here is the grass area, lawn area of Libby Bowl. Okay, that good-looking guy in the back is me. You can barely see me. And then probably the most important element is there's this monument that's right here. And this monument is roughly 50 feet from the front of this curb line right here. Okay? Our proposal is that the ones that you guys can see is we want to do a terraced effect so that we can provide more lawn chair, more of that activity in the first 50 feet of the lawn area. And then from that, still keep a large enough portion for vendors, for dining room tables, for things like that, when people want to do that type of activity at the event. So we came up with two conceptual drawings. This one is more native stone, more natural looking. So you can see the tiering, and there's the upper elevation at the top of that monument. And then the one that we're actually leaning more towards, and this is a more polished, it's going to be dry stack stone wall. So this is a retaining wall around the existing oak. Terracing here, and why we like this idea is this one here allows to give low voltage lighting so that we can enhance the safety of people leaving the area at the end of the bowl. So we think right now this drawing and this work, the original bowl concept was right around $350,000 to $400,000 to develop. And we'd like to think with this method and this idea that we might be able to complete it for 150, if not at least half. I know that for sure. So the next phase of this is we're going to meet with Greg Grant. We're actually going to go out and shoot some elevations, and then we're going to actually see if this conceptual drawing will work. So thanks, Bill, for letting us do that.
I just have one question. The photograph begs the question. There's a lot of grass here. What is there any thoughts to an alternate landscape?
Well, this was actually designed 2 weeks ago when we had plenty of water, but no. No, the reality is it's a conceptual drawing. So there is grass there. Obviously, if we could, in the best of all conditions, we'd love to have grass there. But it could be synthetic grass, it could be mulch, it could be a multitude of other elements. Right now, it's just a visual aid to see the terracing and to see the thought process behind that.
Okay. Thank you. And thank you for your work on that. Yes. Appreciate it. I think that is an important aspect of the bowl that we should be moving towards, assuming that we have the money to do it. Everything that I was going to report on in terms of the basin from the board meeting last month has pretty much been discussed. And I think, and Russ Baggerly is here, he serves on the board with me. One of the nice things about the water basin is it does replenish itself very, very quickly when we do get rain. But it's still being extracted, and we have to be very careful of it. And I can assure you that the board does look carefully at how much water is being taken out of the basin. It also does replenish itself from underground sources. Doesn't necessarily need rain to completely replenish itself. There are some underground sources of water that come into the basin. So it's not all relied on rain. And then the other is from Gold Coast Transit District, which I also serve on the board. I'm just making sure that we still keep Route 16 a viable route, and it's being highly utilized. It's the 6th highest used route in the entire system, although we are down about 5%, but overall, for whatever reason, I think because of the time of the year, the last quarter, the ridership was down. but it's still a service that's very important and very highly utilized by our citizens. And that's the route that runs from Ojai to the mall in Ventura, where the main transfer station is, where you can then go elsewhere throughout the system. Any other comments by the council? All right. Moving on to the consent calendar, is there anything that any of the council members wish to be removed from the consent calendar? Is there anything that the public would like to address us on that we would like to take off the consent calendar for the time being? Seeing no one, I'll entertain a motion.
Move approval.
Second.
Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Councilmember Laura?
Yes.
Councilmember Haney?
Yes.
Councilmember Clapp? Yes. Mayor Pro Tem Wyrick?
Yes.
Mayor Blatz?
Yes. All right, moving on to our discussion items. We have no public hearings this evening, but we have several discussion items. Item number 2 on our agenda is a letter to the CASITAS Municipal Water District regarding the state water project allocation access. Mr. McClary?
Yes, thank you. This actually was on for the discussion at the August 30th special meeting, and it was discussed and continued to tonight's meeting to allow a little more time for council to consider the letter. Amended letter was produced by Mayor Pro Tem Wyrick. It was distributed yesterday and also posted to the city website, and a copy of that is also on the dais this evening. That is all staff's comments. I'm sure the members of the council may have some comments as well.
All right, well, this was specifically held over till tonight at the request of Councilwoman Clapp. So I'd like to ask her if she has any specific questions or comments that she'd like to make with regard to the letter. Okay. Any other comments? Yes, Mayor Pro Tem Wyrick.
I wanted to say that I never like last-minute changes, but the changes are relatively minor, but they're important in the sense that Councilman Haney and I have attended the executive committee meeting of the CASITAS Municipal Water District, had a very productive discussion. They made some excellent comments and incorporated that in this letter, and this is really a support letter for the CASITAS Municipal Water District. And tomorrow at 3 p.m., they're going to have this entire matter on their agenda in terms of moving forward. It's been a great learning process. In addition to all of that, there was a meeting that between Mr. Wickstrom, the City of Ventura water people, the Caligas Municipal Water District, and Mr. Haney and myself, and we continue to learn more in that respect. The point being is that it needs to be a collaborative effort, a support effort, and I think we've all come to an understanding of how we need to pull together on this one particular matter.
Any other comments?
You know, the only thing I'd like to add to that is just what Bill finished with, is the fact that we're all in this together. And all of the meetings that we've attended, you know, sometimes they're contentious and sometimes a little adversarial, but the bottom line is we all, the CASITAS board, William and I know the council here tonight, are all going to agree that we all have to act together, and we all have a great deal at stake.
Okay. Mr. Baggerly, are you back? There you are. You're hiding. No. I'm used to seeing you in your hat. Welcome. I just wanted to see if you had any particular comments with regard to this letter.
I do. I want to thank you all very much for putting together a letter of support for our effort in trying to release some of the water from the State Water Project for Ventura County. It's essential that all of our organizations and jurisdictions act together in concert to bring this to fruition. You know, back in the 90s, when we thought about bringing a pipeline from Lake Castaic down to western or eastern Ventura, it was over $100 million. That kind of money, much like what Santa Barbara spent to bring water down from Lake Santa Margarita overland, is astronomical. That would have made very expensive water. And since things have really changed to allow Callegas to wheel water from Metropolitan into eastern Ventura, changes the dynamics of what we're able to do at a very reasonable cost. I understand that 7 miles of pipeline is going to cost $25 million. That's a far cry from $100 million in 1990. It's probably $200 million today. So thank you, council. Thank you for all your work to bring this letter to our attention. At 3 o'clock tomorrow, we're going to have a letter from our general manager, Steve Wickstrom, outlining the work that's going to be done in concert with the city of Ventura, with Callegas Municipal Water District and Metropolitan Water District, the 900-pound gorilla in the room, but we're going to get it done. So thank you again. I appreciate it.
Thank you,
Thank
Russ.
you, Russ.
Thank you, Russ.
I did have one speaker's card that all it said was water on it, so I thought it might be this agenda item. Miles Stemley? No? Okay. I didn't have any other speaker's cards, so I did, excuse me. Russell Snyder? Or Sydney? Sydney? No? Russell? Is that you? Oh, you want, okay. Steve Bilson? Hi, Steve.
Quickly on item number 2, I'm Steve Bilson, CEO of Rewater Systems. Everybody in the state that wasn't tapped into the state water project is now doing exactly what you're doing. So I wouldn't hold my breath on getting a lot of water from that project for a long time if it ever was delivered. Just thought I'd let you know I go to city councils all up and down the state, and everybody thinks that's the golden egg, and it only goes so far. And I'll reserve most of my time for item number 3, if you don't mind.
Okay, that's fine. I don't have any other speakers cards on item number 2. Anyone wanting to address us? No, I'll bring it back to council for further discussion or a motion.
I'm going to move approval of the letter for conveyance to the CASITAS Municipal Water District.
Second for discussion.
Okay, discussion.
I've been trying to put my thoughts together on this because it's kind of convoluted, as water is. I'm glad that you brought that up, because I've been really suspicious about whether or not we could really get access to that water. I know that there's more and more demands put upon it throughout the state. Other states have demanded back their rights that we have that have let us use the water, Arizona being one of them. And we also have an uncertain future as far as rain. And it does sound like it would be something that maybe we'll get down the line if we're lucky. It's also at a cost, it sounds like, of $25 million. And where would that money be generated? Would it be generated through a bond initiative, which translates to additional taxes on the citizens to solve a problem of water? The other thing that always concerns me when you're looking at sustainability is a solution to rob Peter to pay Paul. It reminds me of the Mono Lake and of the Owens River Valley. When you start taking from somewhere else to feed your water needs, when you haven't taken all the steps that you can take to conserve, is that the right thing to do? I don't think it is. I think what we really need to do is consider how we're going to go forward in how we manage our development. Are we going to be realistic about our finite amount of water that's available to us and create policies that protect that water? I think we should, and that's why that I've been asking really strongly to create water-wise building standards for any new projects. But in the meantime, I think that we should seriously consider going beyond the recommendations of item 3, which is the restricting new development until the water matter is resolved, if and when it ever will be. We have no guarantee that we're going to have water at the amount that we need to replenish our supply and be able to supply our citizens with the water they deserve. The adoption of the urgency ordinance that we're going to be talking about in item 3 extends only to commercial development. And as I've thought about that, I've realized that that's only part of the problem, and that really we need to restrict any development until this matter is taken care of. How come in one breath we say that this is an urgent matter and we've got to act quickly and we have to do everything we can, and then in the same breath allow additional demand on our water system when it's in the current condition that it's in. So I would really like to strongly urge the City Council to think again about whether or not item 3 goes far enough. And regarding hooking up to the State Water Project, I have a fundamental objection to robbing Peter to pay Paul. I think we need to live within our means, and I think we can do that with control of development and with water-wise building standards. And again, I think it's wrong to steal somebody else's water, because we're not taking the steps we need to take to be a sustainable community. So I will be voting no on the letter.
Any other comments? Councilman Lara?
Principal, I obviously want to do the right thing as a city and look at our development standards and our water situations, obviously, and I think we're in the process of doing that. But I think as elected officials, we are also obligated to plan for the future, and this is not going to happen overnight. This is an option for me, and providing a need for our community. I look at it that way. We have a responsibility as elected officials. So I fully support the letter that Mayor Pro Tem Wyrick and Councilmember Haney have drafted. And I think that it just is our responsibility to always have, this is not going to solve our issue. It's not. Absolutely not. But it's an option that we need to look at.
Okay. Any comments by the drafters?
Well, I think Councilwoman Clapp makes some good points. I'm not going to argue with her over her opinions or her views. Like I said earlier, this issue changes daily. For us, again, we've been looking at it for 8 weeks, and in 8 weeks, I'm telling you, I've learned so much and seen so much. So let's be clear on a couple of things. The State Water Project is not a panacea. It is not going to solve the replenishment of the reservoir that we all rely on. It is a short-term stopgap, hopefully, to provide the city of Ventura additional water, which in turn, we hope we can negotiate that they do not draw any more water from the lake or the reservoir, which in turn prolongs our ability to maintain our economy, maintain our house values, maintain the type of living that we're used to. It's connected to so many things. So again, it's a short-term solution that we may, like Councilwoman Clapp said, we may not get 100% of the benefit. But the rules of moving water in the state have changed dramatically over just in the last year and a half. And I wanted to bring something else real quickly up. When you all hear the word wheel, do you guys think of tanker trucks like gas, where there's wheels and there's big? Wheeling means the ability to move water through a piping system, canals, any mechanism that we have from Northern California to Southern California. And that's been happening for a long time. So it's not something that we're starting for the first time. It's not something that's new. It's an ongoing entity. We just need to recognize that. The other thing that has changed in the wheeling process that we all need to be aware of, and we're going to have someone talk to it later on, is the fact that once you have the mechanism in for wheeling water, the rules have changed now where you're not necessarily just relying on state water, that there are a lot of other entities out there that sell water. And if you have the plumbing system, you now have the accessibility to those different entities, and you're allowed to use the state water plumbing to bring that water to you. So a rumor that we keep hearing out there is, state water is going to cost us $2,000, $3,000, $4,000 an acre foot. The reality is that's a rumor. We won't know until it happens, and then at that point in time, we won't know what other water is available out there to purchase and to utilize that system. I just wanted to be clear on that, and if you have any questions on that, I'd be answered to help you later on understand them. So, having said that, I just want to make sure we're clear on it. It's not a panacea. It's an opportunity to extend our ability to have water in our community while we come up with a solution county-wide for the replenishment of water in our reservoir. That's what's critical.
Did you want to?
Just real quick, the biggest straw in the lake is the water that goes to the city of Ventura. 60% was available this year if we were connected to the plumbing from the state allocation. Some years it's less, some years, it's like it is this year. Santa Barbara went through this. If they had not diversified their supplies in the 90s, they would have had a disaster. That's a matter of fact. We need to diversify our supply on top of conserving, and that's why Mr. Baggerly with the CASITAS Municipal Water District thanked us for this support, and I think we should vote to approve it.
I think that we, as a council for our community, would be derelict if we didn't investigate every option that we can. It doesn't mean that we're going to necessarily go with it, but we have to look at it. One of my biggest concerns over any time anybody has said that we want to have anything to do with the state water project is typically the more water you have, the more development that it likes to bring. And that's something that we don't want in the valley. But we're talking about an alternate source of water so that we preserve the water that we have available to us. And I don't see that at this point having a direct relationship to increased development in our valley. And I really, as I said, I think we'd be derelict if we don't investigate every possible avenue of preserving the water that we have available to us in our valley. So with that, if there's no further discussion, I'll call for a roll call.
Councilmember Lara?
Yes.
Councilmember Haney?
Yes.
Councilmember Clapp?
No.
Mayor Pro Tem Wyrick?
Yes.
Mayor Blatz?
Yes. All right.
Mayor.
Yes.
I would like to tell a little story that happened to me about water on a recent trip. I went up Highway 95 in western Nevada, and I pulled over to the side of the road, and a tanker truck pulled up beside me, and he waved and he said, "Do you need any help?" And I said, No, I'm fine. I was just being a slave to my telephone. And so he started to chit-chat with us. He was a great guy. He was out of Indiana, and he had been contracted to come out to western Nevada near a place called Hawthorne and pick up and help transport 70,000 gallons of water a day to a solar panel project down the road from Hawthorne to control dust, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. They drive into the city of Hawthorne, they hook up to their fire hydrants, and these tank trucks pull 70,000 gallons of water a day and take them over and dump it on the dust in the desert to control dust, to keep the dust off the solar panels, which are for sustainable, environmentally sound energy. It just shows how complicated the whole issue is. I was stunned. I can't even comprehend 70,000 gallons of water a day, which is going to evaporate, and it's out of their water table. So it's just a little thing that's kind of an aside, but it shows how complicated the water issue is.
Thank you. Moving on to item number 3 is consideration and potential adoption of an urgency ordinance under Government Code Section 65858, imposing a limited 45-day moratorium on certain new and expendable commercial development projects requiring new, expandable, or greater than 10% additional capacity replacement water, service connections, and new swimming pools. Mr. McClary.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'll be asking our city attorney, Mr. Summers, to give the report.
Mr. Summers.
Thank you, Mr. McClary. Thank you, Mayor. What is before you, per your direction at the previous council meeting, is a option, 4 options, in fact. The one recommendation is take public comment. 4 options. 1 is adopt the moratorium on the table. 2, modify, then adopt the moratorium. 3, defer consideration of the moratorium to your next meeting when it is also scheduled to consider the water-wise development standards we were talking about at the Planning Commission meeting. And 4, take no action. The draft that is on the table would impose a limited 45-day moratorium for all new commercial development, all modifications or expansions of commercial structures that fall into one of the following categories: requiring a new water service connection, additional water service connections, or a replacement water service connection that is a water meter with a greater than 10% capacity, or new swimming pools, and that's both construction and filling of new swimming pools. The draft has several exceptions as follows. 6. 1, new or expanded single-family residential houses and associated structures, including any sort of second unit or any other associated residential structure except swimming pools. Repair, maintenance, or renovation of existing structures or facilities which already have water service connections, provided that they don't need a new water meter or a replacement water meter. Repair and maintenance work which the city manager determines is necessary to abate a threat to public health or safety. Any project for which everything has already been approved and a building permit has been issued. That would not include anything that has only a design review permit or some other higher level entitlement. The exception is only triggered by a building permit, as that's the permit that triggers the complete vested rights on a project, coupled with substantial construction. And on the same sort of vested right example, a new commercial construction that already has an existing water service connection. Again, as long as they aren't replacing or expanding that water service connection. And there's a further safety valve if a particular project, if the moratorium was applied to a particular project and that would constitute a taking and requiring compensation under the Fifth Amendment and the analogous provisions of the California Constitution as determined by the Planning Commission through the approval of a variance, that provides a safety valve to insulate the moratorium against a takings challenge. I'm not aware of any projects that would fit that category at the moment, but should one arise, it provides that safety valve. In terms of procedural requirements, imposing this kind of moratorium is imposed under Government Code Section 65858, which allows the council to enact an initial urgency moratorium without public notice and without a public hearing beyond the Brown Act requirements as were complied with to allow this to be on your agenda tonight. With a 4/5 vote, an initial moratorium under Government Code Section 65858 is limited to 45 days. The council has the power to extend it up to a total of 2 years in 2 chunks. The first extension can be up to 10 and a half months. The second extension can be up to 1 year. You're only allowed to extend it twice. So if you extend it for shorter periods of time, then you reduce that total to your 2-year cap. After the 2 extensions, if approved, have been used up, you are not allowed to, the council may not impose a new moratorium for at least a year on the same subject. Moratoriums under 65858 are intended to allow the council to put a pause on changes on the ground while the council and the wider city and community are considering changing the rules, in this case considering water-wise development standards, and thus ensuring that any new standards adopted, any new development or expanded development within the constraints of what's before you would be subject to and benefit from those new standards. It would not be permanent. Because the city is not a water purveyor, itself. It does not have the power to impose the type of moratorium that we view that other cities have imposed, which would be a permanent moratorium pending the resolution of the drought. At the moment, Casitas Municipal Water District is continuing to issue will-serve letters for new and expanded water service meters. That is under their discretion and their power. As long as they continue to do so, the city cannot adopt a permanent moratorium pending the drought lifting. That would be on Casitas' desk. They have that power if they choose to exercise it. The moratorium would also pick up, or if you decided to modify what's before you, you can modify it up or down in terms of applicability within the limits being, I would recommend maintaining the taking exception, as it insulates it against a potential legal challenge. The rest of it is largely up to the council. I'm available to answer any questions.
I just have one question. You mentioned Casitas, but you didn't mention Golden State Water. Do we have any more control within our franchise agreement over the will-serve letters that are being issued by Golden State Water than we do over Casitas?
Unfortunately, no. The same rules apply to Golden State. If they're continuing to issue will-serve letters, as the PUC is allowing them to do, the city cannot force them to stop.
Okay. Any questions of Mr. Summers? Comments? No? All right, we have several speakers' cards on this matter. I'll take it out to the public. The first one is Steve Bilson.
Again, Steve Bilson, Rewater Systems. I sent everybody on the council an email about gray water irrigation systems, and that's our forte for 26 years. We've been selling, installing, or supporting the installation of legal gray water irrigation systems. And these are systems that every home can use for landscape irrigation. It's perfect for new construction, but it's also retrofittable in some buildings. And it's a great way to save the water you've already acquired from wherever. So that's what I came here to talk about mostly. And there's all sorts of funds available from state, various things from MWD that they're co-joined in, all sorts of, just all sorts of a mix of funds that are available for that. And all you have to do is apply to the regional board, and all of a sudden you're in the queue for all sorts of state funds, and you go to the Met and talk to the guys at Conservation, and you get in the queue for their funds. And there's a lot available. And like I say, it's reusing the water you already have, so nobody's freaking out about anything. It's already your water. There's EIR has been done somewhere upstream somewhere, and it's already yours. So that is a great solution. And in the water conservation world, there's kind of a hierarchy of things to do. And what caught my attention was you guys are looking at pools and what you could save by not having pools out there. And despite the fire safety issue so you probably ought to pay people to put pools in for that reason, but from a water conservation issue, that's not low-hanging fruit at all. That's like the hardest fruit to get from the very, very top of the tree. You got to get a big ladder and almost kill yourself to get it, to actually see a result. On the other end of that, the lowest hanging fruit, and this is according to the State Water Resources Control Board, which put it in writing, the most cost-effective source of new water is gray water irrigation. And I would say if you're going to do something in your new water conservation ordinance, put some teeth into that, because that's where you can get some serious bang for your buck. You're talking $500 an acre foot of water versus maybe $3,000 for desal. There's everything in between. So that's a good one.
Yes, Mayor Pro Tem Weyer.
Can you provide information of examples of cities, municipalities that have developed programs with organizations such as yourself and others to incentivize, make easier, roll out templates, pre-approved permits, make it easy? Do you have examples of programs like that?
City of Encinitas mandated it for all new construction. City of Chula Vista mandated it for all.
Thinking about existing construction, not just new. We don't have a lot of new construction here.
I can give you a list of it.
Retrofits in particular, in terms of providing positive incentives for that kind of thing. I would certainly love that information.
Okay, sure.
Thank you.
Okay.
I just wanted to make one comment. As a landscape contractor, I've put about 10 of these in in the last couple of years. I couldn't agree with you more. 100%. It's one of the best way to conserve. The other side of it is the cisterns and the rerouting of water on your property and the collecting of stormwater retention. On large parcels, I can pencil it out. On small parcels,
that's a
I
tough one.
struggle. It's just not cost effective. Your methodology and utilizing gray water is by far the most cost effective means.
I'm glad you recognized it in the real world, yeah.
Thank you, Steve.
Thank you.
Deborah Pendry?
Thank you, Mayor Blatz, council members. This will be somewhat repetitive, but it's all worth repeating, I believe, in the conversation that we're having here. So 3 or so years ago, during a roundtable discussion on the drought, I observed the communications with the community going into the local newspaper from water agencies were not strong enough. The response was, "We don't want to cry wolf." I was taken aback and I shut my mouth. But most of us at some level find ourselves in the reactive mode to the drought. There is plenty of room for getting more proactive, but we're going to have to be reactive as needed to plug the holes in the dike. It's not easy, it's not comfortable, it wasn't smart, but we're here and it could be prudent to take a time out and consider what our options are and where we're going to be moving forward in regard to development. This discussion item mentions water conservation development standards, and I know this is going to be somewhat repetitive, but the communities who are being proactive have developed the water neutral standards for new or upgrading development. From a report written in 2014 called Demand Offsets, Water Neutral Development in California, urban water use efficiency is lauded as the best source of new water for drought-prone California and the least expensive. Programs that require water neutral development, often referred to as demand offset programs, are one of the innovations inspired by drought. So I think feasibility studies are important and valuable, and we need to do that for the state water. We do have to have all the options on the table. But let's look at the numbers that were presented to us. We could potentially be out of water 2021. Feasibility study, public comment period, permitting, 7 miles. We're past 2021, I would warrant and guess. So, the coalition will continue to promote as the cheapest and the easiest new water for all needs to be eliminating the water waste. Water efficiency, which is using improved technologies and practices that deliver equal or better service with less water. Water conservation, that's doing less with less water where appropriate. Reusing and recycling our water, zero rainwater runoff. And one of the things that can help people in all those areas is understanding their water bill and knowing how to read it and understanding how much they're using. Some of our water bills in this community are, a different language. So I think that's an important area for us to also look at. So that was it. And just as a reminder for gray water, that the laundry to landscape system is a non-permitted process that can be done. So that's a pretty low-hanging fruit, the laundry. Thank you.
Thank you, Deborah. Ted Moore?
With respect, actually, I want to just focus and talk a little bit about water. As far as the moratorium is concerned, as I mentioned earlier, that I have an apartment project that I'm going to bring forward, but I'm going to focus heavily on water-wise opportunities that are involved with that, and would love to be a part of the discussion. And if you're going to appoint some kind of a committee to work on it with regard to that, I'd like to be involved if that's possible. I've been a commercial real estate developer for it's about 35 years now, okay? And I've done several projects, but recently I too have become concerned about the water situation in the Ojai Valley. And so what I did is I hired a geologist on my own to do a preliminary study of the Ojai Valley and found some very interesting things, okay? One of the most interesting, the most provocative, if you will, is that I had the idea that the Ventura River possibly was flowing underground and going out to the ocean, and it's being lost to the Ojai Valley. And this geologist I hired confirmed that. There are two flows that run along the, let's say, the western bank of the Ventura River, probably around 300 to 600 feet down, we estimate, maybe about 250 feet wide. There is also a fault line that runs almost parallel with it. It cuts through, on the western bank, it goes through Rancho Matilaha, past the Montessori School, and goes all the way down out into the ocean. Just a preliminary estimate from this geologist I've been working with, 6 wells, probably you could capture as much as 5,000 acre feet. So it's a pretty significant number. I also had him look at the rest of the Ojai Valley. And we looked at Upper Ojai as well. And there are, in our view, a couple of aquifers up there. But the most interesting thing I found is I started a conversation with a company called California Resources Production Corporation, okay? And those are the guys that were spun off as a publicly traded company, and that was spun off from Occidental Petroleum many years ago. One of the things they purchased from Union Oil was all of their natural gas pipelines. The interesting thing about that is that none of them are in use, okay? One of them runs, we believe, and I've been waiting for the legal descriptions from them, which I have not yet gotten, from Upper Ojai all the way down to Mandalay Bay and Oxnard. And I need to verify that. But if that's the case, and there is some, and it happens to be right next to, we believe, an aquifer, and one of the two aquifers we found in the Upper Ojai. If that's the case, we did a calculation that we can get maybe 800 to 900 acre feet through that line. We believe it goes down through the golf courses, so you can simply see the opportunity there, okay? The other really provocative thing that they mentioned to me is that they have 5,400 acres of property in the county of Ventura. I think a lot of it is along the Ventura River on the west side with the oil fields, okay? They're struggling as a company. They have, because of the oil and gas prices. But in my vision of this is that that area really needs to be looked at in terms of water resources. It could possibly be a solution where the city of Ventura could get water that is currently being taken out of Lake CASITAS. These are my creative thoughts, okay? So I mentioned this to Russ just a little while ago, and he said, why don't you get with Steve Wickstrom at CASITAS, which I will do, and I will also bring my geologist along. This is a guy who has been a geologist for about 35, 40 years. He's cited over 4,000 to 5,000 wells, and I asked him when I first started to work with him, how many dry holes do you think you have in that period of time? And he said 2. So we think he's pretty good at what he does. There's a couple of other adjuncts that go with it that I can talk about some more, but I've looked into pump technology. There's some very interesting pump technology to move water. Let's just say that those pipelines were there. They run down the bike path all the way down. You see natural gas signs as you go down there. Could you pump it back up? Energy is a big factor, and so I've looked into pump systems, and there's some very interesting technologies that I could talk to CASITAS about that actually, they're called vortex compression pumps, and the water actually has a cushion of air around them. Air is actually forced into the pipes, and there's a collar of air around the water, so it doesn't touch the sides. So it greatly reduces the friction or the drag, greatly reduces the energy cost that's involved as well. So I'm trying to look at several overall solutions to this. There are also in the valley of the Ojai Valley, there are aquifers and there are fault lines that run through the valley that we've also mapped. I've mapped all of this. I've got this on maps. I've had my geologist map it. Again, I'll stress it's preliminary, but all of those need to be looked at really carefully because some of it, I believe, in addition to the Ventura River, is also going out of the valley, and like San Antonio Creek area. It's passing Lake Casitas by. So let me come back just briefly. I want to say here's the scenario. If we could put these wells in a little bit above Casitas, I think they can be sited right next to the diversion canals, and we could just drop the water, pump the water into the canals, it would flow into Casitas. So, on its surface, it sounds like a real simple solution, Some of those, the fault line we believe is outside of the medium priority area of this Ojai Valley Basin. The aquifer water, I'll call it underground river aquifer, if you will, is inside of it. So it would require some studies, but those are EIR reports that can be done, I think, hopefully fairly quickly. But anyway, I just want to lay all those thoughts out. I'd love to be involved in this whole conversation. Love to, present all these ideas to Casitas as well as others.
Thank you very much, Ted. Do you have a question?
First of all, Ted, thank you for coming and speaking. I have seen these maps, and Ted and I took about 2 hours just trying to educate me on it, and there's a ton to it. But again, it's just another one of those opportunities or venues that we can look at regarding lake replenishment, and I just think it's critical that we look at everything.
Mayor Pro Tem Wyrick?
Are you going to be there tomorrow at 3?
I can be. I wasn't
It'd
planning
be a
on it.
great opportunity to talk,
Sure.
if you could be.
Where's the meeting? Is that
It's at the Casitas Water District.
in their boardroom downstairs?
Yeah, the boardroom. You drive around back and you go
Yeah.
in the back door.
Yeah, I know where it is.
Can't talk with you tonight, but I'd love to have an opportunity to talk with you tomorrow if you.
Sure. Okay.
Yeah, great, thank you.
All right. Sure.
Thank you very much, Ted.
Thanks.
Meg Goodwin?
Good evening, Mayor, Council. Meg Goodwin, 304 North Montgomery. Those were some great ideas. That's exciting. I was just thinking that moratorium is good. I just think 45 days is sort of short. But I know in 1992, when we were in another 6-year drought, you couldn't add a bathroom if you had a little house or wanted to remodel. You couldn't add any bathrooms. So I think we should go back to sort of thinking that way while we're in this water constricted situation. And it'd be great if we could convert the water treatment plant in Ventura to a toilet-to-tap system and pump the water back up to our groundwater aquifer up here with the vortex method. That sounds fabulous. Or build a water treatment toilet-to-tap system at the Honor Farm or something that would just, so we could stop just flushing all of our stuff into the ocean and not being able to use it. It's just barbaric waste of water, the whole sewage world. So I really think we need to think of, there's a lot of systems out there that they're using, and when you mentioned the water thing at the solar place, I just reminded me that in Portland they've put in a water generator in the intake of the city water system so that all the water that comes into the city and is dispersed into the houses generates power. So they've realized, why did we build all these dams? We could have just put generators in the 12-foot intake pipes that come into every city in the United States. So that's going to be probably coming on in line in a lot of places soon. So we can stop the Tonopah truck freak show. So anyway, but I think a moratorium is a good idea. I just think you should start with more than 45 days, probably till the end of the year would be good, 90 days or something. And maybe we could see if we're going to get some rain by then. Okay. So thank you for everything you're doing to consider the water, and I'm glad you're thinking outside the box.
Thank you, Meg. Yeah.
You touched on one thing I'd like to amplify, ma'am, is that whereas the Ojai Valley Sanitary District only processes when it's not raining about 1,500 acre-feet a year, the city of Ventura does 8,000 plus acre-feet a year that it dumps to the ocean. And they are very interested in the future of where they process the effluent clean enough for storage.
Right.
Because, you can't meter peak off peak. You just got to process it and then you need a place to store it. And where's the largest underutilized storage capacity for water in all of Ventura County? The Ojai Valley.
Excellent.
They're interested. They want to talk about the future.
Good. Yay, thank you.
Thank you, Meg. I don't have any other speakers' cards. Now, this agenda item really has to do with comments with regard to a moratorium on certain types of commercial building. And we really haven't had much input from the public specifically on that topic. I just saw a hand come up. Sure, come on up forward.
Yeah, I put a speaker card in, but.
Yeah, I don't know why I'm not getting them all, but sorry about that.
No problem.
I've called all the cards for item number 3.
Well, thank you for allowing me the opportunity to come back up, even though you didn't have it. My name is Miles Steinley. I'm with California Pools, and my thoughts are in specific regards to, obviously, the moratorium. We're voting on the moratorium for swimming pools. We understand, and we've been to a lot of the different jurisdictions throughout the county, Santa Barbara County as well as Ventura County, to talk to them about how serious this problem is. We understand the seriousness of it, and we don't take it lightly. Certainly, as one of the largest contractors, pool contractors in Ventura, actually all of Southern California, we have a great interest in assisting any jurisdiction with some of the things that you guys are thinking. That being said, we also understand our clientele really well. And it's a clientele that if not a pool, there is a lot of grass. And whether there's going to be a moratorium or not, or increased rates, we found that this clientele will have lawn there, a nice green lawn. And a pool really offers an alternative to that lawn. It does, I don't know what kind of research you've done on this, but a pool actually uses about 50% less water than a lawn would. It also, just something that most people don't recognize, is during the months of construction, and usually it's about 3 to 5 months during construction, no water is being used. In other words, they're not watering plants, they're not watering lawns. And then I think one of the biggest advocates to swimming pools in a drought and is like what one of the gentlemen said earlier, is that during an emergency use, you've got a swimming pool that can be used for drinking water, or also putting out a fire. Or fire trucks often look for homes with swimming pools so that they can use that water. Again, we understand the serious nature of this, but we also believe that the recorded 100th of 1%, not 1%, but the 100th of 1% that pools use of water in Ojai, there's just not a lot of value in depriving the community and kids of great outdoor activity. And not just that, it does put a severe strain on the pool industry, contractors like myself. I don't do all kinds of contracting. I just focus on swimming pools. There are other contractors who are here that do the same. What I do recommend, though, is, as you guys consider taking this to vote, is to vote on a more drought-tolerant pool. And that sounds like an oxymoron, but in all reality, there are a lot of things that you can do to make swimming pools more drought-tolerant, one of which I believe is a statewide code right now, are pool covers, but it's not really implemented. You can get the bubble cover pool covers that they do save water when you have it on. You can also implement doing no autofills. A lot of times pools will get automatic fill lines on them, and when you have that on the pool, if for some reason there is a leak, that autofill will just automatically go on. But if you don't have an autofill, then you have to manually fill it up. Another one is no overflows. So when it does fill up, it doesn't, a lot of pools, it'll just go right out to the drains. In one jurisdiction, we found that they made a requirement that when you submitted your swimming pool permit, they also required a drought-tolerant landscape plan. So there are alternatives to make it a little bit more user-friendly, and we ask that you consider those things.
All right, thank you, Miles. Mayor Pro Tem Wyrick has a
Real
question.
quick. Are you aware of any municipalities that have effective, meaning effectively enforceable, rules about use of pool covers?
You know, interestingly enough, Santa Barbara City, they talked about it, and then they ruled against it. They said that you don't need to do that. We haven't found anyone who's really enforcing that. I think it's a wise thing. We do it anyways on all of our pools, but
I was just wondering.
Yeah.
If any examples existed.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Again, I don't have any other speakers' cards. Yes.
Sorry, I forgot, because the commercial, you know, I know they're considering the brewery. There's a reason they brew beer in Oregon, because there's water there, and it takes at least 6 pints of water to make a pint of beer. So as much as I love beer, it's really not an industry that makes sense in Ojai. But, you know, motel I don't have as big of an issue with, but I know there's a lot of people that do. But, and the other thing is, I hope that Lake Casitas would consider not opening the lazy river next year if we're still in a drought, because I just don't understand. We're 30 minutes to the beach, people. Go to the beach. It's a drought. That water is not used. It doesn't go back into the lake. You know, it's once you have human contact, that water just goes down to be processed and dumped into the ocean. So again, toilet to tap. Thank you.
Thank you, Meg. Anybody else with regard to the moratorium? No? I will bring it back to council for questions, discussions, or a motion. Any questions by council?
Mayor Blatz, I have some question for staff. When you drafted this moratorium, the options that you gave, how many pools do we, are we asked, do we know how many permits we give for new pool construction?
That one I do not know off the top of my head. I believe the community development director is still in the building. So I'll suggest that we take, perhaps Ms. Young could take a moment and ask her that question. I don't know that one off the top of my head.
Any other questions?
Is there any, anything like this obviously has a benefit and a cost. The benefit has to do with whether this changes the trajectory of our water problem. Compare that to the cost. Is there any informed opinion, quantification, anything about what this proposal would do in terms of, in effect, making a difference?
Staff has not performed an analysis, a quantified analysis of that, whether this would, what your water usage savings is going to be. And I'll invite Ms. Wold to answer. The question was roughly how many pools a year are permitted?
I know that this year, because we had a couple of increase, I think we're doing 4 right now, or I think 4 to date is what we've done.
Okay.
Okay.
So this year.
Right.
Yeah.
And I could go and check and make sure if you want me to just, go over to my desk and check. I could look it on the computer.
No,
but
I just wanted just some facts to see how much this is going to impact or how much savings we're going to have. I kind of wanted some numbers to kind of, in the sense that
Right. I will just tell you that right now, the ones that we have in process have been in process for a while because, as you know, with the pool, they have to go through the PAW process. So they've been in the works for a while.
Okay.
So I hope that we're not considered, I would assume they haven't issued a building permit yet, but they have been in process, just to let you know. Okay?
I have a question, Mr. Summers. With regard to the moratorium, it specifically speaks to new and expanded commercial development. And then it says swimming pools. Is that a separate item for us to consider? Or is that in regard to the overall moratorium that any swimming pools, whether they be commercial or residential, are covered under the moratorium?
As presently drafted, it is 2 independent things.
Okay.
The commercial structures with the caveats, and then separately any whether commercial or residential swimming pool.
Okay.
But
Gotcha.
that the council could.
I understand.
Up to you.
I just wanted to clarify that, because I read the draft ordinance as being that. I just wanted to clarify it. All right. Comments of council.
I have another question.
Yeah.
I'm trying to wrap my head around and trying to understand if our water agency is still allowing will service.
Will serve letters, yeah.
Will serve letters. How does that work in the permitting process of granting a? Could you explain that?
Certainly. A will serve letter comes in after you have, say, take an example, a new ground up commercial development as opposed to a remodel. A new ground up commercial development, a new small office with a single bathroom. That will require a new water meter. That will require a new will serve letter. The will serve letter is issued by the water purveyor after the project is approved by the city, the design review permit is approved. Then they come in and apply for the grading permit. Then they come in and apply for the building permit. At that stage, they need to have and plan their will serve letter. And the final step in the end is you cannot get a certificate of occupancy allowing you to begin the land use without a will serve letter in hand. So that's the final stage.
So this would obviously, if we put this moratorium in, it wouldn't even get to the will serve letter.
Right. If this moratorium goes in place, the project's proposed development that it is subject to could not even go anywhere.
Okay.
Application would be received, they would be handed a copy of the moratorium and explained that for the next 45 days, unless and until the council acts to extend it, we won't process that application.
Okay. Any other comments?
I think I'd like to add just a couple things. I believe these are facts. And Kathleen just stated 4 swimming pools. And I believe CASITAS Water District did 3 will serve letters last year, and Golden State did 3. So we've had 6 construction projects that require that and 4 pools. So again, I'm just, I'm perplexed on this discussion regarding the moratorium on these type projects, when again, I've stated this clearly, we are not a development community, we're a maintenance community, and the majority of our work is in the restoration of existing complexes.
I have a question with regard to the moratorium, and I've got a comment too. I think we need to look at the pools maybe separate from the commercial development and act on those separately. But my question is, how, if we do this and we put it in effect for 45 days, how soon is it going to be possible for us to promulgate new building codes, get them through the Planning Commission, and get them back to us for implementation? And I want a realistic estimate, because 45 days could turn into 90 days, could turn into 2 years. And I'm not prepared tonight to say that I'm ready for a moratorium that we're going to have a moratorium consistent with this ordinance for 2 years. Now, I don't think it's going to take us 2 years to get it back. But how realistically, with the time frames that it takes to do these things, if we acted on this tonight, and we're not going to act on anything with regard to the new building codes until next meeting.
And even, sorry to
Go ahead.
interrupt you. In terms of moving forward, at your next meeting, you'll be considering the development standards.
Right.
Assuming the council gave direction on some set of the water-wise development standards, you could direct it to then go to the PC. Because it's all going to come in the zoning code and perhaps part of the building code, it has to be reviewed at a minimum by the Planning Commission, public hearing. Then it has to go back to the council, another public hearing, and then that's first reading, second reading, at least 10 days later. So putting it all together, you're looking at likely more than 45 days. More like 2 months, 2.5 months. In part, if any of the pieces of that chain decide not to act on the night it's on their desk, that extends it further. So staff will work to move it along so that we're not any bottleneck, but it would really be up to the council, the commission, and the council again.
So I think from a realistic standpoint, the council has to be looking at this as probably a 90 to 120-day moratorium. And that's what we have to consider tonight. Any other comments? It's a difficult decision for us because there's no question that these new building standards are essential. And whether or not we get rain or not, I think the mindset we have to have is to look to the future, and we need these. The question is, given the type of development that we're getting, do we want to wait on any of these things until we have been able to put these new ordinances into effect? Or do we want to immediately begin working on the ordinances? And I think we have to put some time frames to these. So often, we say we're going to do something, and then it seems like it never gets done. And here we need the urgency to get it done. Now, maybe a moratorium will give us that urgency. I don't know, but I think we have to look at it at a much longer moratorium than 45 days.
Another question for staff. How many new or expanding commercial development projects do we get on a yearly basis? Do we know? I guess what I'm trying to see is, do we have a lot of these new and expanding commercial development projects requiring new, expanding, and greater than 10% additional capacity? I don't have that information in my staff report, so I'm trying, that's what's hard for me to really understand if we're adopting a moratorium that really applies to our type of development or not. And I guess that's information that I'm missing from this staff report.
Again, I'll suggest that we look to the community development director to get the exact standards. I'll say more generally, the city as Councilmember Haney noted, mostly in a redevelopment phase. There's little greenfield, bare ground up commercial development. And the key in terms of the redevelopment that has happened is to consider in this context whether or not there have been changes to the water meters. And I'll note that the council could modify it to not be based on water meters. You could, with the findings that are before you, it would be defensible if you wish to simply apply it to new or expanded commercial development, period.
Mm-hmm.
That would also be defensible as one of the elements built into the modification option. But most of the development that we do have in this city is redevelopment, and if they have an existing water meter, it wouldn't be picked up by this as long as they aren't expanding or adding new water meters, and that in part depends on the project before you.
Right. Here's the way that I look at it. I may be making it oversimplified. But if we don't have a lot of development that's affected by the moratorium, then it doesn't make any difference if we have the moratorium in place or not. However, let's assume for a moment we have one major project that comes before us in the next 90 days without the moratorium. Would we want that one major project to have to wait until we have these new standards in place? Or would we be comfortable as a community and as a council to say, move ahead with that project, even though we don't have these new things in effect? If we don't want that one project to move forward without the development standards, then the moratorium should go in effect, and it's probably not going to affect very much development within our city, because hardly any of this that we're saying we want a moratorium on is being done now. And that's depending on what you think about the swimming pools. That's kind of the way that I'm looking at it right now. Councilwoman Clapp, do you have any comments?
Mr. Mayor, I think that it should apply to any development.
Including residential?
Yes. But if the rest of the council doesn't want to do that, I certainly feel that the amount is irrelevant. What's relevant is the impact. So if we have a project that's coming before us that's going to have an increased demand on our water supply, it should be under the moratorium until the new water standards are created. I think when we focus too much on the fact that we don't do a lot of development and therefore it really isn't germane is missing the point. The point is any additional demand is negative. So we need to have standards in place to minimize that impact. So I'd say that it needs to be done immediately.
Right. And that's what I was getting at, that if there are no projects that fall under the moratorium, it's going to have no effect on them whatsoever.
Yeah.
It's only the projects that are going to have an impact on our water usage that would fall under the moratorium. And that could be a major new development. And my question to the council was, are we willing to allow a project to move forward if it has a significant impact? It's a major project. given the fact we don't have a moratorium in place, or do we want to put a moratorium in place so those, if there were a major project to come before us, there would be standards that would require them to be water-wise?
And
That's
Mr.
in
Mayor,
essence
absolutely.
That's my
Yeah,
main
absolutely we
thrust to
should.
the council.
Yeah, whether or not there is a project
Right.
is irrelevant. What's relevant is that we don't allow any development until these standards are in place, whether it's before us now or not.
Comments? Mayor Pro Tem Wyrick?
I'm hearing completely different things. No development targeted on major development. Any urgency requires findings that this makes a difference. That's part of the state code. Have findings that it matters.
Findings that it'll accomplish the goals set forth by the council to avoid the public health and safety impacts from
So
the
what I
drought.
keep having a problem with here is a broad brush may well have unintended consequences. It doesn't seem like it'd be an either or, and I got a whole list of things that we could use, that we could target, that do make a difference. And so, like we just heard one on putting a program together for implementing gray water programs for all of our existing structures. Probably would have much more of an impact on the city's water situation compared to any kind of moratorium, for example. I think we've heard testimony to that effect. And so I'm more interested in targeted things that absolutely have an impact that's, proven and measurable. I'm not really interested in I have a real problem with things that are done more for symbolic reasons than actual measurable impact approaches. And that's where
Hold on one second.
I have a problem.
Councilman Haney?
I would just like to add to that, too, we're talking about impacting, if we say moratorium on everything, which is what I just heard Councilwoman Clapp say, there's an economic side to this, too. And just my understanding of this community, I'm going to say over 50% of it has some form of construction aspect to it, whether you own a company or whether you work for a company. So if I'd rather see us have a more thoughtful and a more interactive discussion with the community regarding any type of moratorium, first of all. And second of all, I'd like it to be beneficial if we're going to be talking about ordinances and policies and changes. The fact that we have, I think we're bringing up, and Mr. Quillisi could help me with this, but we do have the Uniform Building Code that's coming up that we have to review and implement. I think Dale could get it. And part of those new codes are already in low water use toilets, low water sinks. I mean, they're already going to be there. The second thing is in the landscape ordinance set forth by the state as well as set forth by the city. We all have already implemented an incredible cut in water usage and plant materials and landscaping designs and installations in this community. So we've already have that on the books. So there's a multitude of things that we're already doing. If we're going to do more, I just want it to be thought out, I want it to be careful, and I don't want it to be just some willy-nilly, knee-jerk, oh my God, the sky is falling, and we need to stop doing something. I think we can do two things. I think we can be thoughtful, we can be considerate, we can be well-versed in what we're trying to change, as well as look at the conservation side of that.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes, Councilwoman Clapp.
I'm perplexed that in one agenda item, we are being shrill about the demand, the water issue and how it's reached critical mass. And yet in this discussion now, it's being brought up that it really doesn't matter because we're not going to be doing that much. When the reality is everything matters. It's cumulative. And the very idea that we have people restricted in their water use to the degree that they are today, we have trees dying, which is a fire hazard, in a community with old housing stock, very old housing stock, very close together, and not recognizing that when we continue to have that water restriction for outside watering, we're jeopardizing the safety of this community. We could go up in flames. So one house here, one house there, a brewery here, a housing development on South Montgomery there. All of it adds up and all of it matters. I think, and I would like to have Kathleen, if she's still available, or Mr. Summers, help me go to the conservation element in our general plan, please.
I don't have the general plan
Yeah,
right in front of me.
It's so hard to find in here.
Oh, it's not in that book.
Well, it's, usually it has attached to it the,
Thank you. I think that's just a municipal code.
That one just has the municipal code. That
It has the
unfortunately does
muni.
not have the general plan, but
for the conservation element.
I believe Ms. Young can pull it up
Yeah,
on the.
I thought it was also in here.
Just a comment, Mayor Blatz.
Yes.
About what Councilwoman Clapp has risen. I think the last item that we're talking about, we are in a drought. There's no doubt about it. We need to look at it as a whole picture, and that's what we were doing earlier. I feel like we were looking at our water situation, and we were looking at how our water, who was pumping water from our underground basins and from the lake, from the reservoir, and there's some steps that I think we need to take right now in order to provide opportunity and option for the public to have water in the future. And I look at this as our city. I keep hearing that we're a small percentage of what we use from the water. And as a community, we haven't really grown to begin with. And we talk about the importance of keeping this community vibrant. And what in terms of applying conservation methods and applying our fair share, which I think our community already does and has started, and actually I'm proud to say that a lot of my clients have taken drastic measures starting in 2007, 2008 to conserve water. I think about where are we gonna get the most conservation, and I agree with Mayor Pro Tem Wyrick in terms of that we're gonna get more of that conservation aspect out of looking at our water development requirements or standards, looking at gray water systems, and that's where I struggle with this issue is, are we more making it symbolic, or are we really going towards something that's going to make a positive impact in our community? And I like to look at findings to support my decisions, and in this case, I'm struggling because I don't see those findings, I don't see that impact, I see a more symbolic approach to everything. And not that I'm against it, but I just want to make sure that we implement something that is going to be beneficial for the community. That's where there's a difference between the conversation we had earlier and the conversation we're having right now, for me personally.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
I don't think there's anything symbolic about delaying the development of a 40-room hotel and a brewery. Those are both going to be very high water demand. There's nothing symbolic about that. And there's nothing symbolic about delaying a 30-unit housing project on South Montgomery. That will be a high-demand water project. In our conservation, bear with me, we're all going to get educated about the conservation element right now.
I'll point you to pages 8 and 9, which are the waterside section in the conservation element. And while you're clicking to there, I'll just want to give the council a quick caution to keep the focus on general impacts or effects of this particular moratorium, and to refrain, as is always the case, from prejudging any particular application that could ever come before the council. If any application comes before the council, all members of council will consider it based on the information and public hearing available to them at the time.
Thank you, Mr. Summers. I've got just a comment
I still have the floor, if I may.
What's that?
I saw the floor, may I finish?
Oh, have you found what you're looking for?
Yeah, I do.
Okay.
The conservation element is provided below. Conservation involves a recognition and respect of all Earth's resources, in that their management and preservation is the responsibility of our fellow man for use and appreciation by future generations. Conservation assumes that all things are either existing or potential resources. Most resources are finite, and if they are not to be expended, it should be done in a prudent and judicious manner. Conservation inherently respects the inner relationship between needs for utilization and resources. It further establishes priorities, which will determine how resources will be conserved or utilized for the long-term benefit of all living things. The conservation element for the conservation, development, and utilization of natural resources, including water and hydraulic forces, forests, soils, rivers, and other waters, harbors, fisheries, wildlife, minerals, and other natural resources. The portion of the conservation element includes water, shall be developed in coordination with any county-wide water agency and with all district and city agencies which have developed, served, controlled, or conserved water for any purpose for the county or city for which the plan is prepared. The conservation element may also cover the reclamation of land and water, flood control, prevention and control of pollution, regulation of the use of land and stream channels, prevention, control, and correction of erosion of soils, protection of watersheds, and the location, quantity, and quality, et cetera, et cetera. The bottom line is that within this, I won't bore you with any more because it continues on, that we have a duty within our general plan to conserve. And it doesn't say it's only relative to everyone outside and how much they're using. It says that within our city limits, we are required by our conservation element to conserve. And that's why I think that we need a moratorium right now, because we can't conserve unless we have water-wise standards in place. If these projects come before us, we will be doing the opposite. We will be non-conserving.
I have a question for Mr. Summers. This is an emergency item.
Correct.
My thought process on this is that I don't believe that the moratorium on the commercial expansion and development projects is really going to affect very many projects in the city right now. And because of that, I don't believe it's probably going to have a significant impact on the water usage. And I don't think that a moratorium is necessary, and I don't believe swimming pools have that big an effect. But my concern is, and the only reason that I'm thinking about it, and I need your advice as to whether my thought process allows me to vote yes for a moratorium that is an emergency measure, is that I would like to see building standards in place for any major projects that are going to be done in the city, so that not necessarily because they're going to have an impact, an overall significant impact on our conservation effort, but if we have any projects coming forward in the near future, I would prefer them to be delayed until we have those building standards in place, so that we can insist on those building standards being incorporated into that development. Does that make sense? Now, even though I don't think that that necessarily is going to have a significant impact on our conservation efforts, but if we're looking to the future, why wouldn't we want to take a step back, put the building codes that we want into place, so that when a significant project does come before us, we're going to be assured that those water-wise characteristics that we want in the project are adhered to. Now, is that something that this moratorium obviously that would be the consequence of this moratorium, but with that line of thinking, can we make the findings to be able to support a moratorium on an emergency basis?
The key finding is whether you find that failing to impose the moratorium would constitute a current and immediate threat to the public health, safety, and welfare. That's the key finding. It's a matter of how you assess the potential level of harm to the public's health, safety, and welfare, which would include their water supply and water quality and quantity issues, and quantity is the first quality of water, relative to what's before you. I can't finish the final piece of that analysis. That has to be on you.
Okay, I understand. So if that were the case, then I think I could envision wanting to wait until there's development standards in place before a major project were to be constructed. That's kind of where I am at this point. Any other comments by the council? Anybody want to attempt a motion?
I would move that we delay any major projects until development standards are approved, but we do need to define what we mean by major.
Okay, within the body of the motion that's before us, it defines what we're considering to be major projects. Are you in agreement with that definition? It's, if you look at your agenda, it's on item number 3.
I would suggest looking to attachment A, page 3, section 2. And just to note, the one on the dais and the one in the packet are the same, except there was a typo. I missed a stray reference to Sierra Madre. In section 2, which is the section that imposes the moratorium, the first long sentence is where the language that Councilmember Clapp is discussing would be picked up. Right now, it's drafted to pick up any new or modified or expanded commercial structures that require new water service connection, additional water service connections, or greater than 10% additional capacity water service connection on any lot in any zone. If the goal was to replace the last portion of that, the references to the water meters, with major, I would suggest that you consider reading instead the moratorium of the permits as listed shall be issued for the construction and development of major defined as larger than, and then larger than will be up to the council. It could be larger than X acres, larger than X expected personal capacity, larger than square footage, thank you, of new commercial structures or modification or expansion of existing commercial structures, period, and drop off the reference to the water meter connections, if that was the direction desired by the council. And bear in mind that as structured, it's a 4/5 vote.
I think as written, it's fine with me, but I would like to pull out the swimming pool aspect of it.
I would be willing to pull out the swimming pool aspect, but have a separate vote on it instead of just, instead of striking it, have it be a different.
That's what that was my intention.
Yeah.
Okay, so you want to formulate a motion?
Okay. I move to delay any development entitlements requiring a new water service connection, additional water service connections, or a greater than 10% additional capacity replacement water service connection on any lot in any zone within the city until new water-wise development standards have been written and adopted by the City Council.
To be clear, the council only can go 45 days.
So 45 days, okay.
It's till, you can structure it as either until new standards are in place or 45 days. That'd be fine. But you can't go past 45 days without an extension.
Well, then, clearly it has to be for 45 days and an extension if necessary if the new standards haven't been adopted.
And that'll come to the council. It'd have to come before it expires on Friday, October 28th. So it'd come at your last meeting in October would be the consideration of an extension.
Okay.
Which is the 26th.
All right.
Are you happy with that?
That's fine. Do we have a second? I'll second it. Any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Councilmember Lara?
No.
Councilmember Haney?
No.
Councilmember Clapp?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Wyrick?
No.
Mayor Blatz?
Yes. All right, the motion fails. Is there an alternate motion that anyone would like to make? No? All right. Do we want to take up the moratorium on the swimming pools?
Yes, I would like to move to delay any construction or filling of new swimming pools until such time as there is determined to be adequate water within the city to determine that we have enough water to allow new pools to be constructed.
Yeah. Is there a second?
Sloppy, but
I'll second it for purposes of discussion. I don't think that the construction of new swimming pools is significant enough that I would support the motion. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Lara?
No.
Councilmember Haney?
No.
Councilmember Clapp?
yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Wyrick?
No.
Mayor Blatz?
No. All right, moving on to the next agenda item. Item number 4 is an agreement with Sterling Ventures LLC for use of Libby Bowl. Mr. McClary.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This has been quite a journey to get this back to the city council.
If I could just have a point of order. I don't know when this card arrived, but I was just handed it. We have already been through the consent item, and Ryan Blatz is here asking to speak on consent item number, or letter F, which was adoption of ordinance establishing a historic district for Taramina community. Was this something that I missed? Because I did ask if anybody wanted to have any items pulled.
Mr. Mayor, no, I apologize. I was in a deposition in Thousand Oaks and was not able to make it in time for the consent calendar.
Okay. Then I would ask the council, do you wish to open the consent calendar item F back open so that Mr. Blatz can make comments?
And if it pleases the council, I'm happy to wait as long as you want.
To be clear, is that a request for a motion for reconsideration? Or is that merely a request to take Mr. Blatz's comment and then do as you do?
It's whatever the pleasure of the board is. Yeah.
I would be open to the latter, not former.
Yeah, and my request isn't to necessarily open up for reconsideration. If you want to vote on that after my comments, that's fine. But there are some comments I'd like to make for the record, if it pleases the council.
What's the council's pleasure? You want to open it back up for some comments?
It's 9:30. I think what I'd like to do is take care of what we've already started to discuss and let Mr. Blatz come back after this, if time permitting.
Councilwoman Clapp?
Yeah, I agree with that, and I would like to take a quick break, bathroom break if we may.
Right now?
Yes, indeed. It's 9:30.
Okay, then at the request of Councilwoman Clapp, we will have a 5-minute, let's have a 5-minute break. Stretch your legs.
Make sure she goes to the restroom.
Make sure she goes in.
Let's reconvene. Wherever he is. We're waiting for Mr. Summers, Councilman Lara, the interim city manager, McClary. And I don't know where he went. All right. All right, we are now on item number 4, which is an agreement with Sterling Venue Ventures LLC for a contract with Libby Bowl. Mr. McClary.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. As I was starting to say, it's been quite a journey to get this back to the City Council. As those who will recall, originally we had an agreement before City Council in November of 2015. And at that point, a number of concerns were raised by the public and the council about the proposed agreement. And the council directed that an expanded ad hoc committee be formed to look into the issues. As part of that, a town hall meeting was held in January to gather feedback from the community. And that committee met several times. Those responses are summarized in the attachments to the staff reports. With the feedback from the expanded ad hoc committee, the Libby Bowl committee, which consisted of Mayor Blatz, Councilmember Randy Haney, Mrs. Joan Kemper, the city manager, and now the current interim city manager, and also our administrative assistant, Amber Young, met for several months with the purpose of discussing and negotiating a revised or an amended revised proposal to bring back to City Council. So I'd like to just go over some of the highlights of what has changed from when this was last before City Council and today, cover some of the reasons why we think that this is a good deal for the city of Ojai, and I'd like to close with a couple of words about the experiences that we've had and what we've learned from the concerts that have been held this year with Sterling Venue Ventures, and lastly, I'd like to offer one small amendment to the agreement and talk a little bit about Mr. Sterling and his track record. So what has changed substantially from the last proposed agreement? There's a provision in there that every year the city and Sterling would meet annually to divide the calendar in half. They would receive 26 weeks to be able to book their exclusive commercial events. The city would then have 26 weeks in which other events could be held at the bowl that would be administered through the city staff. We felt that this was a good arrangement to give some certainty early enough before we get into the coming season, so that both Sterling Ventures and community groups would be able to have some clarity in terms of the availability of dates. And as we've discussed, we could always switch and change if it benefited both parties. So that's one thing that's new. The term of the agreement has changed. The initial term was for 5 years in the agreement that was brought in November. This is for 4-year, with subsequent extensions also in 4-year increments. Of course, any extension would require City Council advance approval. Sterling Venues has agreed to provide additional records to support the profit and loss calculation as part of the Section 4 compensation. The per ticket maintenance fee, maintenance or facility fee, has been increased from $2 per ticket sold to $2.50 per ticket sold. As part of that, Sterling Ventures would provide a $10,000 deposit each year in advance for the facility fee. Any fees, of course, collected beyond that would still be remitted to the city. Agreement also provides clarity on who is responsible for cleaning and maintaining restrooms during and after events. It also requires that Sterling Venue Ventures book a minimum of 10 events per year. Exhibit C has been added to provide a rate card for nonprofits wishing to use their lighting or sound systems, not just the simple house systems. And also, the city and Sterling Ventures would annually review and renew the list of acceptable artists for the bowl. So there are a number of benefits that we see to the city and the community from this agreement. One is the access to artists, which have appeal to the Ojai demographic and Ventura County as a whole. Access to artists that want to play in smaller venues like Libby Bowl. because we know that to get an artist where that works and it pencils out, you need to find the right person who's willing to do that, who can bring in the right amount of crowd, who can bring in the right crowd. We also see that, again, Sterling is committed to a series of concerts over multiple years if the agreement is proposed. We feel that the city has a favorable termination clause. If the agreement is entered into, we feel that Sterling would really help to build the Libby Bowl brand. I know there was a lot of discussions that that occurred at the committee level in terms of wanting to be able to control the customer experience, knowing how important word of mouth is, and knowing how important it is as well for the artists, who of course communicate with each other and provide feedback on the various venues. As part of the agreement, they would also provide a high-quality lighting and sound system, which is something that we do not have currently at the Bowl. We see that they have a very strong track record working with communities and artists, and it does provide an opportunity for the city to really begin to recoup the investment that we made into the Libby Bowl some 5-6 years ago. One request, which is a bit off the path here with what I'm trying to explain, but as part of this request, Sterling Ventures has asked if for the first year of the agreement, if the city would be willing to reduce the advance deposit for the maintenance fund from the $10,000, which is proposed annually, to $5,000. But I want to emphasize that this is only a deposit amount. It's not a forgiveness of any fees, a waiver of any fees. It's just simply reducing the amount that they would pay to the city upfront towards the fees that they would collect for each ticket sold. The reason that they're asking for that is to help offset some of the losses that they've experienced with the shows that they've done in 2016. However, in no cases would the city not be made whole in terms of receiving the full amount that it's due for the per ticket sold fee. The one change that I wanted to highlight in the agreement is on page 4-9 of the packet. It's a very minor change, I believe.
What was that again, sir?
4-9.
4-9, I apologize. It was pointed out by a member of the public that you see the listing there of the city reserved dates. Roman numeral 5 is Art in the Park. That does not occur on the weekend preceding Memorial Day. It occurs on the weekend of Memorial Day. So we would offer that slight change. Also want to note, since we're on that page, Roman numeral 1, the agreement does recognize that there are dates agreed upon for strict use by the Ojai Music Festival, and it recognizes that there is a separate agreement which takes precedence in terms of the scheduling. So I just wanted to point that out. I also wanted to touch a little bit about the events that we've had in 2016. When we were not able to reach agreement on a commercial contract back in November, Sterling Venue Ventures still wanted to go forward to do a series of concerts in Ojai this year. They came forward and they did several shows now. Ozo Motley, Rick Springfield, Michael McDonald, the Zombies. Am I missing one? Thank you. To date, and I'm not saying that there haven't been concerns out there or issues, but we've only received one complaint from the public regarding those shows, and that was a noise complaint that we received during the Rick Springfield concert. Other than that, we've not received any complaints or concerns about parking, noise, traffic, or other impacts. I'm not saying that those impacts may not be occurring. We're simply not getting the complaints. And I think for those who have had a chance to see those shows, they were very professionally done. I think they put the city of Ojai and the Libby Bowl in a very good light and showed that we really do have a potential to be a concert venue that can be successful in this area. I wanted to close by making a couple comments about Mr. Sterling. Mr. Sterling and I have not spoken for several months directly. It's been a process, of course, just to work through this, and get it on the agenda. But from what I've been able to observe and experience, I think Mr. Sterling is a pretty remarkable individual in terms of expressing the entrepreneurial spirit. He's really somebody who has built a niche for himself. I think he understands the market very well. I think he's starting to really understand the Ojai community very well and the needs of Ojai. But I feel that he is really a man of his word. I feel that he is really committed to try to make this as a cooperative business venture that is workable not only for Sterling Venue Ventures, but also for the city of Ojai. I think he has a pretty strong, proven track record of being successful in business, and I do not believe Mr. Sterling would be here trying to make this proposal with the city if he did not really feel that it was in the best interest of both parties. With that, I'd be happy to answer any questions. I know we have some speakers who would like to address the council on this matter as well.
Any questions of Mr. McCleary by the council? Mayor Pro Tem Wyrick?
Quick detail question. And by the way, I agree with you. I think that the experience so far has enriched the community. I know there were, anyway, I think Mr. Sterling has shown a lot of sensitivity to the situation. But in terms of a detail question, for Attachment A, page 5 of 11, 4-9, 9B, SVV shall have exclusive rights for booking all commercial events scheduled at the Bowl. Is that both for city dates and SVV dates?
The intention would be that they would be the sole booker of commercial events at the Bowl.
Even on city dates?
Well, no, those would be dates that would be held by the city. So if there was a commercial event that came, we would not enter into an agreement with a commercial event. We would direct them to Sterling.
No commercial events under any of the city control dates?
That's correct.
Okay.
Any other questions? Any other comments? Yes.
Mayor Blatz, the comment that we made last time in looking at the contract was we suggested to possibly have a entertainment lawyer look at the contract. Was that done in the subcommittee, or?
Yes, the committee did work with Councilmember Haney, arranged for a pro bono attorney who did review that contract and did get the comments back to the committee.
Okay, great.
Any other questions, comments? Lance, would you like to address us at all?
You know how I am terrible speaking in front of people, but no.
You have to go up here. Nice try.
You should know if by any, right?
Yeah. No, my family, my son, I have 5 kids, so we've come up here. We've actually had a blast up here. We love it up here, and everybody we met here is great. It just reminds me of like starting something fresh, and I think that we're the underdog, and I like to, I've had a great time, and I know better now who to book, what to book, and how to promote in this town.
Thank you. I'm going to take it out to the public for their comments, and then if there's anything that needs to be discussed after the public comment, you're welcome to come back up. Dennis Jones.
Thank you and good evening.
Hi.
I'm staunchly in favor of entering into the contract with Sterling, and I believe that you should lower the security deposit because $10,000 to me is almost punitive for starting up a new relationship. To have to, I could guess at what his margins are, but having to put up $10,000 up front to start to do business with the city, to me, that's just too much, and I don't see that it's necessary. But going to the larger question of whether the city should enter into the contract, I was a member of that ad hoc committee that studied the contract. I am a lawyer. You don't really need an entertainment lawyer to look at the contract because it doesn't have anything to do with copyrights and intellectual property per se. It's just a straightforward contract, and it's very fair. It's very straightforward. It's very fair. There were no problems with the contract. The questions that came up with the committee were more, do we want to have rock concerts at Libby Bowl? Do we want to give an exclusive to Sterling? We vetted all of those issues, and the majority of the committee was very much in favor of entering into this contract. since then, of course, now we've had 4 concerts, and to me, the proof's in the pudding. I've gone to 2 of those concerts. I was sitting a few seats from Councilman Haney for the Zombies, and that was just a flat-out fantastic concert. Lance Sterling was there at the concerts. He was taking tickets, greeting people as they came in, making sure that everything stayed cool at the concerts. And I worked security as concerts for 4 years in college. That was my part-time job, and we were, at the time, the largest crowd control, firm in LA. So we worked at the Forum and the Shrine and major venues. And I got to the point where I was a supervisor, so I know a little bit about security. And when I went to the shows, I looked around and I saw they had the guys in the black suits and they were stationed where they should be, and he had adequate forces there to maintain security. I'm also a professional musician. I've performed 3 times at Libby Bowl, and it's really an underutilized gem that we have in this community. And I say that not only as an audience member at these shows, but also as a performer, because the guys in my band love to play at Libby Bowl. We've played for bigger crowds. I mean, Chase Palm Park in Santa Barbara, they get 5,000 to 6,000 people, and we played for 8,000 people up in Mammoth last December. But we've never played a stage that is such a great venue, a great stage, and looking out at that crowd and being outdoors like that, it's just a fantastic place for a performer to perform. And that's just not my opinion. I went to the Temptations show last year. Any of you that were there, you might remember that Dennis Edwards at the very beginning started talking about how beautiful this community was, how much fun they had just walking around before the show. And the lead singer for the Zombies, Colin Blunstone,
Thank you.
said something similar after their first song. He started talking about what an honor it was to play in this beautiful venue, in this beautiful community, in his very charming British accent. And so it's not just me that appreciates that. I mean, the Film Society had an event there 2 years ago. It was a screening of A Hard Day's Night on its 50th anniversary. So they hired my band, Sgt. Pepper, to perform before the film. And at one point, now they have the chairs and the tables in the orchestra pit, but those were all cleared out. And at one point I looked out, and there had to be close to 400 people dancing right in front of me. And I looked down, and there's a mother dancing with her daughter who looked to be about 15 years old. And she's singing along with the band. She knows the lyrics. And I just looked down, and I thought, it's one of those moments that, one of those I love this town moments. That's what I felt at that time. And I thought, we have to have more events at Libby Bowl. It is just such a jewel of a venue. And so, the contract was fine, and now we've had 4 concerts there. Really, the only question I had when I was on the committee, I got the Ventura County Reporter, and I opened up to see who was going to be playing, who was playing at the Canyon Club. And I looked at the bands, and a lot of them were kind of hard rock bands and even some metal bands, and I was thinking to myself, that's the only question I have about Sterling is, are they going to bring in the right type of artists for Ojai? But so far, so good. I mean, even Ozo Motley, who might not be that well known to a lot of people here, but I think everybody in town knows Jimmy Caleri. His son was the drummer in Ozo Motley until recently. But they hired a local band, Noble Creatures, who I think sold about 50 tickets. Ruben Salinas was a saxophone prodigy at Nordhoff High School. He played with my 11-piece band while he was still in high school. That's his band. And so I think that Lance is smart and that he now understands the type of artists to bring into Ojai that will be successful. It's not the really hard rock band, maybe some of the classic rock bands, but I'm just very impressed with the first 4 shows. And I think we should go all in and hopefully make this a long-term relationship, because he has the buying power, because he has these other venues, to be able to bring in artists that an independent producer that was just trying to do one show would not have. And he also has the buying power with advertising, so that he can promote the show so that they can be successful, because after all, this relationship is not going to work out unless Sterling can also be successful and can make money on these shows. So I would just urge the council to approve this contract and reduce the deposit.
Thank you, Dennis. Mike Donahue?
Boy, I was excited before I heard Dennis, and now I'm even more excited. Good job, Dennis. And Steve, excellent job on the summary there. So I'm Mike Donahue. I've lived here for 14 years. We've raised 3 kids in this community, my wife and I, and I'm retired from the technology business, and I spent a lot of time with philanthropic activities. So I came here back in February to talk to you guys, and you sent us on a mission, and we've been fulfilling that mission. So we're very proud of what we've done. You wanted, specifically Severo, I think you wanted community input. You wanted to hear more from the community. You wanted to hear from the ad hoc committee, the small ad hoc committee, the large ad hoc committee. Then there was a negotiating committee for the deal itself, and then, of course, the 1,000 people that gave up to $3 million for the renovation of the bowl. They've all spoken. And as Dennis said, the majority of the large ad hoc committee was in favor of moving forward with Sterling. So we've done our homework, and we've bunted it back forward to the council tonight to hopefully approve the contract as presented. But when I look at the contract, I said, hey, what are the things that really need to be in there? And I say, personally, I was looking for 4 major things. First, I wanted flexibility. I wanted to see that there was enough flexibility in there that our legacy events could be protected. Critical events, the music festival, Nordoff Band Days, Ojai Days, things like that, July 4th activities. So wanted to make sure all of those things were covered, including flexibility for new events and unforeseen events. We've talked about TED Talks and other things like that. So we had to have flexibility in the agreement. I see it there, so that box is checked. The second thing that I wanted to see was that there was some type of proper behavior there and adherence to the contract language. So what allows me to sleep well at night is, as Dennis said, we've got a proven track record already. With this delay, it's kind of benefited us. We've got to see the guy who we might be partnering with, and we know his experience over 20 plus years with 700 concerts per year. And I've talked to people in the communities in Pasadena, Beverly Hills, and Agora Hills. So we know we have a proven partner. But I sleep better at night also knowing that the termination clause is so well written and is also very favorable for us. In the event we need to terminate without cause, we can do that. In the event we need to terminate with cause, we can do that. So 2 things make me feel good about the behavior of the partner and the fact that we have potential great language there for termination clause. The third thing I looked for is the fiscal impact. So we definitely don't want to lose money on this. Like, we're bringing a lot of joy to the community. If you guys could see the joy in the faces. Some of you have been to the concert, some of you haven't. There's been a lot of joy for these 4 shows. People dancing in the aisles, and I mean, just a lot of happiness, which is great. The bowl is revitalized. We've got some action. We're going to have more action hopefully in 2017. But fiscal impact, as I look at the contract and see the $2.50 ticket fee, and I do some quick math on if the bowl is 60 or 70% full, that we'll have positive cash flow. And so it's going to be not a money-losing opportunity. We brought joy, but we lost money. That's not going to happen. So that was the third thing I looked for, was the fiscal impact. And Steve, I think in your summary, you said it was kind of hard to do the fiscal impact, but if you do just the basic math, you can see that it's going to be cash flow positive, revenue positive to us. And the fourth thing I look for is just that the liabilities are covered, right? The liabilities, that the insurance is there and the provisions are there, that the liability to the city is indeed taken care of. And then the last thing I want to say just in closing is that the community input is important. It's important to you because you represent the community. So you tasked us to go forth and have these meetings, multiple meetings. And the committees have come forth, the majority of the committees have come forth and said, we think this is a great partner. We'd like to see more shows. The 2 councilmen, a city manager, a citizen at large helped negotiate the contract. They recommend approving it as presented, I think was the words. And I endorse that, and I certainly hope you guys can tonight. So
thank you, Mike.
Hopefully we'll see you at the bowl.
Appreciate it. Mike, is it Eckhart? Eckhart, okay.
And I'm running out of cool things to say because everybody has said a lot of cool things. So my name is Mike Etchart. I was born and raised in Ojai. I also spent about 25 years in the music business as an artist development executive. And the points I just want to make is, we used to say in the music business that it's not toothpaste and it's not shoes. We're marketing a product that has an opinion about itself. And I just want to point out that it's a lot of work, and it's expensive to market and build brands, whether it's artists or venues. And we are lucky to have a potential partner here that has a proven track record, and he's done a wonderful job of doing just that in a very special niche in this industry that is really done very well by him, and we've got something we can kind of visibly see already. So I want to point out we've got somebody who's really willing to put the time in and the money in to make this a brand that we can be proud of in Ojai. And growing up in Ojai, I never had that opportunity. I remember driving all over Hell's Half Acre to go to great concerts, none of which were really in Ojai or Ventura County at all. So, my last point also is that the concert business has really been taken over now by publicly traded companies, very large corporations that have agendas that may or may not kind of jive with the venues that they're promoting. And so, to have a partner that not only has a proven track record of what he's doing and has done a wonderful job at it, but also, I won't tell you what street he lives on, but he lives in our county, and it's someone who I think, we don't have McDonald's in Ojai for a reason, and I think to have somebody representing our bowl that is a member of our community is an incredibly important thing. So I suggest that you all approve the contract.
Thank you, Mike.
Thanks a lot.
Yeah. Richard Camp?
Hi, I'm chairman of the Artistic Committee of the Ojai Arts Center Theater, where, by the way, I don't know if you all know, Mayor Blast will be making his acting debut in a couple of weeks, one night only, filling in for one of our actors that can't be there, so you must all come to do that. But let me tell you, the throwing tomatoes is frowned upon, so just can't do that. I moved to Ojai 3 years ago from Los Angeles, and immediately got involved with the arts, of course, with the theater, and immediately started going to the music festival at the Libby Bowl. And I remembered, in Los Angeles, we have the Hollywood Bowl, which is, one of the most extraordinary things in the world. I mean, people in divorce settlements fight over their tickets to the Hollywood Bowl. And I was wondering, and I thought when I got here, the Libby Bowl, wow, that would be the same kind of thing, right? And then, the music festival was 4 nights out of 365, and there wasn't all that much going on in those other nights. And I said, well, that's really weird, because it is, as this gentleman said, one of the most beautiful, exquisite places in all the world here in Ojai. It's a bowl, and not many cities have that. I was at that concert, the Beatles concert. I was dancing on that floor, and there were 90-year-old people and 70-year-olds and 30-year-olds and 10-year-olds all dancing together. And it's an example of what the community needs. The community needs a place to commune. We have the theater and we have the bowl. And so the more music we put into the Libby Bowl, I think the better it is for the community. And I love classical music. I also love rock music. I love folk music. I love jazz. I love all music. And this enterprise has given us some really good concerts. I think they'll give us some more. And I am firmly behind this. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Stuart Crowner?
That's it. That's me.
Okay.
What can I say that hasn't been said so beautifully by all these people? Wow, wow, wow. I can add this, my own opinion. I am a professional television producer from Los Angeles. I've lived here for 10 years, but 40 years in LA doing TV, meeting all kinds of people, especially in the music business, promoters and so forth. And I have heard about the Sterling organization, and it has a great reputation. When I saw the work that they do here in some of the concerts, I realized that you all are, and all of us are in good hands with this company, because they take care of their audiences. They don't just take care of their artists; they take care of their audiences. So I say, let's do this.
Thank you, Scott Weiss.
Weiss.
Sorry about that.
That's okay. My name is Scott Weiss. I'm a certified public accountant and a certified management accountant. I was on the 17-member ad hoc committee. I have a bit of a different opinion about how the ad hoc committee operated and what the results were. I will not get too far into that, but I will remind the council that last November, council said, let's take our time on this. Let's look at this contract. Steve has gone into great length to explain to us what has changed in the contract. The question I have is, what has not changed in the contract? What has not changed in the contract? Before I go any further, I do want to say that I'm in favor of Sterling having concerts here. I just would like to see the contract modified for the benefit of the city. I've submitted a fairly extensive package related to some items in the contract. I do have considerable experience writing contracts and interpreting them. I have also worked as an arbitrator for the Bar Association, where I have exposure to this. So a couple of things that we talked about in the past were the compensation. This is the biggest problem with the contract. Somebody said that Sterling is a smart man. He's a very smart man. The contract says that the city will share in the net profits with Sterling after $30,000 per month first goes to Sterling. If you look at Exhibit B, some of the things that will be deducted before the net profit is determined is the management office staff, payroll taxes, bonus. Oh, simply write a bonus to himself and you've reduced the net income to wherever you want it to be. Then we've got a whole list of administrative expenses, office supplies, equipment rent, office, print and stationery, postage, travel, overshort, bank charges, payroll processing taxes, accounting services, legal. And then my favorite is that there's a management fee of 4% of the gross revenue. What I suggest to the city is that you take 4% of the gross revenue, or 10% as the Hollywood Bowl does. Some people have said that the Hollywood Bowl contract cannot be compared to the city of Ojai. Certainly we know that there's more money going into the Hollywood Bowl than will ever take place here in the city of Ojai. However, the principle is exactly the same. You have a choice of a gross contract, compensation based on gross or compensation based on net. If you base the compensation on net, you will be completely lost as trying to figure out what that net income is. We just heard Dennis Jones say that you can only imagine what his margins are. So if there was 300 or 400 tickets sold at the last concert, what is the gross? What is the chance that there's ever going to be a net profit for the city to share in? Some of the other areas have to do with exclusivity. Give Sterling, somebody said there's a maximum of 16 days was the intention. It's not in the contract. I brought this up before. Give him 26 days and let him choose his 16. There's a buyout provision on the equipment that says based on depreciation value. Undepreciated value. How are you calculating that? Book value, income tax. It's often said that attorneys will write contracts and not have it reviewed by an accountant to see what the financial impact is. From my understanding is there has been no financial projections done on this. I've not seen any in the package. There was evidently, there's comments from an entertainment attorney. Those were not available to the public to see what their position is. I ran this by two accountants, an attorney. They all sort of laughed that there's a net income provision in this. As far as the length of the contract, you went through this thing with the Ojai Bowl Foundation. The contract has provisions to carry it to 2032. I would have to get my calculator out to figure out how many years that is. You can serve the same purpose by giving Sterling a 1-year period to look at, to do this. If it works, great. And you can look at his numbers. He's already done 6 concerts. Have you gotten financials from those concerts to see how many tickets are sold, what the average ticket price is? I suggest that you slow down, get that information, and then I would be glad to volunteer my time to help you find a sweet spot with Sterling. You can come up with something where you have a flat monthly rate and eliminate all this problem of trying to count how many seats were sold and keeping track of net income. You can make that, you can design this so that he has the opportunity to make a profit. He should have that. He's taking a tremendous amount of risk. However, the city shouldn't just give the bowl to him based on net income. The other thing you could do is you could get a percentage of gross profits, 4 or 5%, as he's asking for in his management fee. Take that first up to a threshold. Look at his numbers to see what his margins really are. Take your time and find that out. As far as exclusivity, I've watched from before the contract was given to the Ojai Foundation, I had an interest in partnering with some of my friends that produce concerts. And if you make this exclusive, then it's impossible for anybody to do anything on a small scale. What if I wanted to come in and do a jazz series or a classical music series on a small scale? It would not interfere with what Sterling's trying to do, but your contract would prohibit me from doing that. And I might say I would be glad to do that, where I would reduce that $30,000 margin by a third and let you participate at $10,000. But you'd be foolish to do that. It should be based on gross. Thank you.
Thank you, Scott. Doogie Seliger?
Hello. Some of you know me, some of you don't. I've worked I'll bring it from an inside look instead of from the outside that some of you have seen. I've worked with Lance Sterling's on his project from the beginning, also with others here too, staying from the morning to the nighttime and from the background. I feel that he's done very professional. He's helped out a lot with it. Seeing how it was working was very professional. Watching it grow, bringing new life into the bowl, bringing things to it. I do not see that it will harm the nonprofits at all. So which I have events in that also, because I worked in it from events since 1987 all the way through in many capacities. So in my view, I think this is a very good vendor for Ojai. It will be good because I work almost all the events. So on that, that's all I have to say, but I do hope that you do consider passing it for him.
Thank you, Deirdre. Patricia Cardinelli? Now it's your turn.
Now it's my turn. I had to wait a long time to get to this
Sorry.
microphone. But it's been very illuminating. Thank you very much, Council. And Mr. Sterling. Yes, well, I've performed at the Bowl many times, and I love the new Bowl, and I love seeing everything that's been created through this whole process, and I was at some of the meetings earlier on in the beginning of the year. One of the things that I find was very interesting, that our mutual friend Jim Lenz said that he created all this very short notice. The concerts that he produced here, there was not a lot of time, and it was like pulling it together very quickly. So given more time, I'm sure he can hone in and just really produce some great shows that are directed towards our community and the Ventura. And we wanted to reach out to Santa Barbara too a little bit more. So I think the promotions were really good so far, but maybe a lot of people further out didn't really know about it yet. So maybe some of our outreach to get more people from outside of Ojai and Ventura. So that was one of the things that I thought was really good. The first couple of concerts were not full houses, and it kind of built up over time. So the ticket sales were building, and I guess you don't have real numbers yet about what or maybe you do. You do, but maybe they don't. So that would be interesting to.
We do.
You do. Okay, good. You do. I personally am a little confused about the exclusivity part of the contract, because I have produced events too, and I don't know if I wanted to produce an event at the Bowl, if I would have to use your production. I'm a little confused about that. It's not really a time to ask questions, but I would be asking somebody that question. Because if I want to produce a show there, I don't know. That's something that I need to learn about. I do love the energy that has come, and the shows were great, and I don't know, maybe some of those things that Scott was talking about, the details of the contract, maybe that should be looked at. I don't know if it already has been looked at. Maybe you guys have already had these discussions. But other than those points, I would support the contract. I think it is a great thing.
Thank you, Patricia.
Thank you.
Joan Kemper?
There's probably nothing in the world that I can say that hasn't been said, so I'll try not to be redundant. I was a member of the original ad hoc committee and brought Lance Sterling and other bookers to the committee to review. But this summer, the 4 concerts, I made it my business to attend. I attended all of them. And the reason I did that was to sort of monitor them, to be sure that they were running right. I didn't really need to do this because I knew Lance would run them right, but there are a lot of local things. And as you've heard before, people had a wonderful time. They were a great success. The, the outsiders as well as the Ojai locals loved it. They were happy, they had a great time. The beer and the wine garden went very well. No one got drunk. There was no rowdiness. There were no parking problems. There were just no problems. I think the city manager said 1 complaint from noise. The concerts began at 6. They were out by 9. People went to the Vine, to Osteria, Agave for a late supper. The restaurants benefited from this. 1 food truck only for snacks. It was all very successful, and everybody had. I supplied most of the volunteer ushers, and these people heard nothing but, oh, at last, we're having fun. We're back in the bowl. We're doing things. That's been said before. And as Mr. McClary said, we started with this in November of 15, and we're now in October, almost October of 16. Almost 1 year later, we're back with this contract. And we did see a lot of spec sheets of Lance's before when we originally started on the contract. I'm not an accountant. I'm not a mathematician. I work in the arts. But we saw all his projections of his shows. We saw what he was doing, lists of artists, and so on. And the contract was, every I was dotted 4 or 5 times. Every T was crossed. It went to the city attorney several times. It came back. It had public input. In other words, it's an old war horse. And let's not beat it to death. I urge you to pass this.
Thank you, John. David Cohen?
Hi there. I'm a 60-year resident of Ojai, and I was one of the many people that donated money to rebuild the bowl and was really pleased to see the result. I've seen my kids play there. I've played there. I'm no Michael McDonald. And I was very disappointed that it took us so long to really get a commercial endeavor going there. And I was very excited that the council took it on less than a year ago, and even at that time said, we can't put it together, but you did, and you gave this guy an opportunity, and now it's almost a year later. It's been demonstrated. I went and bought tickets. I probably wouldn't have bought those tickets to go down to LA to see those shows. I might have done it to go down to Ventura, and I certainly would buy the tickets to walk down to Ojai and have dinner and see a concert like that. And I think I'm like many people in town that would say that. And you know, you're now at a point where it's a time to build something, and you've got halfway there. And I'm sure the commercial arrangement is not perfect, and it's not a big money-making thing. It's a partnership right now, and I think that's important. I think it seems like, you know, this partnership is going to build something, and this has great potential. It's not there yet, but we need to get on with it. So I encourage you to get on with it, because you're doing good.
Thank you, David. Steve Quillisi?
Sorry, I meant item 5, sir.
Item 5. It says 4 on here. I'll change it. All right, that's all the speakers cards I have on item number 4. Or is there anyone else wishing to speak?
I just thought it was appropriate to reiterate a story real quickly. A friend of mine moved into town, and he is a huge concert buff. He moved in about 2 years ago. He was here for about 6 months, and he was in my office, and he was looking. I had a copy of the city seal on it, and he looked at the city seal. He said, "What's that on the front?" And I said, "That's Libby Bowl." He said, "Where's that?" Literally, he had no idea for that period of time what was going on in the park, or that there was even a bowl there. I said, "We just redid it. It's great. It's just still working on it." Well, I can't tell you how many people I've talked to that we've all been waiting for this moment. The bowl is a treasure. This council did the right thing 6 years ago by investing in our community to invest in the bowl and get this done. And the events that have been there over the last 6 months to a year have been fantastic. It has revitalized a lot of the culture in town. I haven't heard anybody complain about it. I think it's amazing that Mr. McClary said there's been one complaint about everything. I do encourage the council to revisit some of the issues that will come up, though. You know, as far as noise is concerned, that's one thing, but traffic and parking, as it gets more popular, will probably come up. But I just want to say that I think I think Sterling has done a fantastic job. I know that Joan, Mike, Dennis, these people are community members who are really, you know, who are working their tail off to make sure we're doing the right thing. And I really can't reiterate enough how many different people have told me how excited they are about this. So kudos to the council.
Thank you, Ryan. Anyone else? Yes. Ray?
Hi, Ray Powers. I didn't think I'd speak on this tonight, but Dennis got me really excited, and so has everyone else. You know, I lived in LA for 40 years and grew up there and have been here 17 years. I rarely went to indoor concerts growing up. And what excites me about Libby Bowl is it's thrown me back to a time where I fell in love with music. It caused me to go into the music business, you know, head first into the corporate music business in LA, promotions as well as A&R and production. And I'm just excited to hear that Libby Bowl is putting on the front burner. There was a place in Burbank called the Starlight Amphitheater. I saw Genesis there, I saw Stevie Wonder there, I saw all these folks there, a little tiny place that was like a mini Greek theater, and then we had the bowl, and to me, those are the best concerts experiences to have.
Thank you, Ray. Anyone else wishing to address us? Yeah, Meg.
I just wanted to say thank you for offering a locals discount for the Steppenwolf thing, because I think Ticketmaster was getting like $20 out of those tickets, and that was a big chunk. So thank you. That was really nice of you.
Okay. Anybody else?
Season tickets.
No. Lance will have to decide on that, but I think, yeah, come on up.
Can I, I'm not trying to stop you, but I just want to make a short parliamentary inquiry, if I may. We've got a huge backlog. This deserves a proper deliberation. Again, I want to make sure there's no possible way we can waive the 10:30 to take up additional items.
There is. The loophole would be to table this item, take up the other items, then retable the other items, and then take this item back up.
I don't want to do that.
That's the only loophole. As the code is currently written, you can't just vote to waive it.
We've had people come twice waiting for items on the agenda. We have other time-sensitive issues. So there's no other way to waive. I don't want to stop this process. I don't want to stop. This is important. I don't want to stop it, but there's no other option?
Unfortunately, as the code is currently worded, there isn't.
I'm sorry.
On the commercial ventures, I just wanted to make sure everybody understood that that was for other companies that commercially produce concerts, not for people. Okay.
Thank you, Lance. All right. Any discussion by the council, questions of staff, or a motion?
Unfortunately, I do.
Okay.
You asked.
Okay.
And again, I really regret the time factor, because we got some other time-sensitive issues here, but this is important, and but I just want to raise some issues. My concern is a little different from Mr. Weiss about the net provision. Every contract I've seen with a net provision has led to disagreements. I don't want disagreements with this. You know, I'm fine with reducing to the 10,000. I'm fine with maybe even not having a special provision where we don't even argue about how many tickets have been sold, you know, not have the fee per ticket sold. Have some very simple, maybe just a flat fee per concert. Keep it as simple as possible, because I got to tell you, I've been part of a lot of contracts, and I've never been part of a net contract that didn't lead to some sort of argument. And I don't want to see that with this. It's too important to have a good relationship here and not have that happen. So I really would like to, I expressed this very strong concern initially, and it's still here, and I got a problem with it. You know, I want to be clean and simple, and let Mr. Sterling, you know, make the profit he deserves, and not end up with debates. And along those same lines, the depreciation schedule, I raised this issue when it first came up. You know, unless you've got a depreciation schedule that's submitted at a given time and is part of the document, you're going to argue about it. Don't want to have that argument, you know? In other words, you say, well, you can terminate without cause, but terminate without cause pays the undepreciated value of the equipment at the time of the termination. If you don't have a depreciation schedule, that's a provision where you say it has to be submitted at the time of the investment, you're going to get into a discussion. It's not clean and clear. It's not good contract writing. That's my position. And another question I have is on page 7 of 11, where it says if one party, number 15, option to extend, if one party serves a notice of proposed extension and the other party is silent, then the agreement shall be extended for a further 4-year period, provided that the city's approval must be in writing after city council approval of each extension. So does that mean if the city council doesn't rule on it, is silent, let's say because, you know, for some reason it's not on the agenda and the council doesn't rule on it, that makes city silent and it rolls over? It seems a little ambiguous in terms of this language, in terms of saying if one party is silent, then the agreement shall be extended provided the city's approval. Well, that's only one party. If the city was silent, it looks like it rolls over. At least it could be interpreted that way. And it's, in other words, anytime you have that kind of an issue, again, contracts are meant to be clarity, which is the basis of a good relationship. And so I've got those are things that just bother me a little bit. And I also bothers me a little bit about the exclusive rights for all commercial events, even the city events. Because, I mean, if the city dates, because if you have city dates, maybe you have a group hasn't submitted, what's the definition of commercial? Maybe maybe that's it haven't submitted the nonprofit paperwork, so they're not technically in the eyes of the IRS a nonprofit, but they might still be a community group. It sounds to me that even the exclusivity applies no matter what, still to all the city dates, as opposed to the SCV dates. So I'm not, you know, I want to make this happen. Everybody has said is absolutely correct. You know, this should happen. But I raised these issues on some of these ambiguities a year ago, and they're still here, and that bothers me a little bit.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes, Councilwoman Clapp.
I have to agree. I'm not a fan of the net item either. I think Mr. Weiss brought up some really, really, really good points, and I think that maybe he could help sort this out. Because I share your same concerns. I want Mr. Sterling to be successful, but I also feel that this contract is lacking. So I would really like to bring it back and also have maybe Mr. Weiss participate more in maybe remedying these parts that we're not happy with.
Any other comments? Councilman Lara.
Mayor Blatz, I'm not going to say that I'm an expert on contract. That's why I asked the question whether a lawyer or entertainment lawyer looked at this, because this is something out of my element. I'm more focused on bringing a perspective of community and what concerns me. First of all, Mr. Sterling, again, I said I read your background again. Amazing. I think that you do such a good job and you would benefit this community. My friends know Ozomatli really well, and they were extremely bummed when they found out they were coming to Ojai because we had prior engagements. But on the flip side, my sister was coming that weekend. They jumped on it. They got tickets. They said it was an amazing concert. So you will bring value to this community in terms of, and I would love that type of genre. I grew up with that type of music, rock en español, amazing. I think you would bring a different diversity here to the Libby Bowl. But in terms of looking at this contract, what concerns me is the previous contract said up to 17 commercial. Now it could be up to 26. That's every other month, every other week, possibly bringing a commercial event. I don't know if that's too much for this community. I just have a little bit of concern in that regards. I do want to see it come to fruition, but that's my main concern as a council member, is having that many commercial events at that Libby Bowl for the community. I don't know if that's why you included that 10, a minimum of 10, to provide that buffer. But that's my main concern in looking at this contract.
Can we have Steve respond to some of the concerns so far? He might add some clarity as to like the 26 weeks and what it means. It's not.
Because I can answer every one of those questions.
Yeah, why don't you come up?
Go ahead, Lance. But I can tell the folks also, just, you go ahead. But 26 weeks isn't 26 concerts. 26 weeks is the opportunity to provide a window for him to give us.
We're concentrated on the first. I just want to go through. The reason we did the $2.50 would make this a deal where you guys wouldn't lose on it. The 30,000, it is a number because of the fact that there's this, it's going to take years. We're talking that's 3 years from now. You'll be looking at a number because this year and next year I'll probably lose a fairly large sum of money doing this, because you need to build a brand and you need to be in, we like to say the first 70% is what we base the band gets. So that means on 1,000 person, that means 700 persons might break even just to cover the band costs. Then I have to put on the concert. So, but what happens is you get like the Canyon Club, where you put on concerts that you make money on now. I make money, but I didn't make money at the first couple of years that I was open. So that's why we did the $2.50, so that no matter what, you walked away with your $2,500. It's just like a rental. And
Times 10 would be 50.
yeah, so, I mean, even at 60% occupancy, it's $15,000. At more than that, then obviously it would go to $25,000. And the regarding the 26 weeks, that was just dividing up a schedule so that I could confidently offer shows. And we moved it from 17 down to 10 for the exact opposite reason. We're more concerned with just being able to do 10 concerts. That's why we moved the percentage down. It wasn't a maximum of 17. It was a minimum of 17 we asked to be reduced down to 10. So it's not like a concert that we're happy if you want to say a maximum of 17, that's great. I just didn't want to do a minimum of 17 concerts. And what other questions were there?
Well, having a defined depreciation schedule as opposed to an
I'd be more than
undefined
happy
depreciation schedule?
when I pick the equipment, I will supply you with the depreciation
You wouldn't
schedule.
mind having that in the contract?
Yeah, but that's basically an addendum, because even when I first came in, I was gonna buy a nice line array, and we put it up, it sounded terrible, so we took it out, and we ended up we have to find the right sound system before I fork out that money.
You don't have an issue with that in principle?
No, the idea is just not to hurt me, because somebody better
Just define
comes
things.
along.
I don't want to hurt you, I just want to have it defined.
Perfect. So yes, as soon as we pick the equipment that we want to buy,
May I ask a question?
Mm-hmm.
Do you have any contracts that are not net?
I only would do a net contract. I would never do a gross contract, because every contract I do with the band is a gross contract. So that only leaves 15% profit margin. Like if you said you took 10%, I'm only taking 4% of the net, as opposed to, okay.
I'm sorry, I wasn't setting it up as either or, net
Oh.
or gross. I was opening up another option too, just to have a defined rental price.
Well, that's why most concert deals, like with the Saban and all that, they make their money off of the facility fee. They take their cut right off the front. So if 1,000 people showed up or 1,200 people showed up, they walked away with their
Right.
$250.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Lance. Any other comments by the council? I feel like we've been going around and around and around on this forever, and I also kind of feel like I've been the Lone Ranger. I wanted to put the deal together and do it before the start of the 2016 season, but I wasn't successful in convincing my colleagues of that. We've looked at this contract every way we can. You know, this is a unique venue. It's a venue that has been underutilized. It is a venue that has very little very little branding, and it is a venue that once people get to it and they see it, they're going to love it. If we were in business as a city to make money off of this, of course we would say we want a percentage of the gross. I mean, I don't disagree with that. And I did sports law for years and years and years, and a lot of things were done off the gross. But this facility is more than just money. We're getting $2.50 off every ticket. I really, as the mayor and as my personal belief, if we're getting $2.50 off, if we're getting $2.50 for every ticket, and the place is getting filled up, I don't care whether we ever make anything off the net. Because we built this bowl for the community, and look at what we're getting back just in the 4 concerts that have been done. I mean, we're getting a tremendous resource for our community, and as long as we're getting a fee that's going to help us maintain the facility in the long run, I don't care whether we make a dime off of it, because our restaurants are going to, and our bars are going to, and our community is going to be entertained to a degree where they can walk to the bowl and have an evening out and enjoy themselves. And that's what I'm interested in. You know, sometimes you can beat this thing to death, and sure, you can always find little nuances to it that you want to change. But it seems to be working. We looked at this contract in every direction. We did have an entertainment lawyer take a look at it. The entertainment lawyer wasn't going to help us whether we wanted net or gross. I mean, that's a business decision. Or whether we were going to get $2.50 per seat or $2 per seat. That's not a lawyer's, doesn't have anything to do with the law. They don't tell you that. I mean, that's up to us. And I'm confident that with this contract and dealing with Lance Sterling and Sterling Ventures, that we are going to bring something to this community that we're all going to be very proud of. And if all we ever got was the $2.50 per ticket, I'd be happy. I mean, you go to those concerts and you see the number of people there and the happiness that it brings. And as far as I'm concerned, if that's all we got out of it, I'd be thrilled. So that's my thoughts on it. Randy?
So I've got 2 takes on it. Obviously, mine as councilman, but also as the representative on the Libby Bowl Arts and Festival Committee. This is what we talked about this morning, and this is what the group came up with, is unique to the industry and will be a good fit. That was one of the biggest statements that came out of it, is that we recognize that we're a small venue, we're unique in that it's going to take a unique person to bring talent into it. So that was something that we thought was important. We talked a little bit about revenue, but as a committee, technically, again, that wasn't what our role was. We kind of looked at things moving forward that we'd like to see. If we could figure out how to do a 300-seat, what's the word I'm looking for, you guys? A 300-seat threshold. That you might bring porta potties in, because one of the concerns that we had so far is the long lines at the restrooms. So if that's our worst concern, I think that's something that's fixable and doable real easily. We thought that the ushers, Joan, don't take no offense here, but we thought the ushers could be trained a little better and have a little more accountability. We had protocols and training. I think the short term was the fact that Lance put on 4 incredible events rather quickly. And I was a part of the initial conversations, and Lance was saying, well, we're going to involve the community restaurants, and we're going to get people to be our vendor suppliers and of our food. And, you know, there's a lot of things that Lance talked about early on that my mind went to, well, he needs to be doing that now. The reality is he couldn't have done it with that short a notice. So in the future, what we're looking at is exactly what you expressed to us, is instead of bringing a food truck in or instead of bringing a hot dog truck in, trying to find a local person or a local entity to provide that service. We think that that'd be great for a great fit for the community feel that we're trying to create.
We're looking at somebody who does shaved prime rib sandwiches, so I heard that there are 2 different charities that do that here.
Yes. We talked about a checklist for before the event, so that we're all on the same page after the event, so that we could review things and just be in constant communication with you about the good, the bad, and so far I've seen no ugly. But just to keep abreast of anything like that, we thought that was important to create something like that. And right now, our liaison would be Amber. As we move forward, who knows where it'll be, but right now, that would be it there. So now I want to talk as a councilman, is, you know, initially, in the group of 5, I was the one pressing against the net versus the gross. And it was because of a lot of people I talked to in the industry also said it just creates confusion. And it also creates accounting responsibilities that, I'll be honest with you, we don't have in the city. We just don't do that for a living. So obviously, the easiest way would be to create, you know, some type of agreeable number, set a threshold maybe of the maintenance fee at 800 and a ticket sales or something at 800, come up with something. But
Wasn't that what we did? Because it's supposed to be.
Nancy, so that it can be heard on television.
Because this is what it is. I didn't want to give the ticket fee. You guys wanted to guarantee X amount. That's why we agreed to the 250, so you have a guaranteed contract. And then if I make on the gross, because the gross, understand the gross, because what happens if I do a concert where there's $10 ticket? You understand? So we did the guaranteed X amount that you're going to get per ticket. And if everybody, which I know that I make fun of, but everybody thinks that we project ourselves out in 5 years from now, when the Libby Bowl is known as the Hollywood Bowl, even though we aren't 17,000 seats, and 15% of 17,000 seats at a $100 ticket average is a little bit different than our 1,200 seats. But when you talk about that, you're talking 3 years. If I invest hundreds of thousands of dollars, that I'm going to make $30,000 for 3 months of the year. You understand that? And I do this solely because of the fact that in this area, this happens to be my niche. So you have a guaranteed contract of anywhere between $15,000 and $25,000 per year for 10 concerts that can be upwards of, and if I do really well, then you're going to get a bump on anything I make over $30,000.
So I appreciate that, but why don't you go ahead and sit back down?
Okay.
And let me conclude my dissertation on this contract. All I was going to say was, so I was pushing back against that. And then I was convinced, and I had to recognize this, what's the value that you're bringing to the community? Because there's not a price on that. You know, what everyone's talked about, this entertainment value, everyone, you know, seeing something being done for the first time, that's just priceless. You can't put a number on that. So I had to look at that. The second thing I looked at was the fact that this contract is rolled over. You know, we can allow you to brand this venue, create something that's incredible for the community, and ultimately down the road, generate income that we can all share in. Right now, what we do have that we've never had is a maintenance fee. We have never had that. We watched this Libby Bowl from its early beginnings and through its before it was finally torn down, there was never any type of a maintenance agreement or any type of a supplement to take care of it. It was always based on the general fund. So we've gone outside of that, and I think that's probably the most important thing to look at. So, having said that, I am for the contract as it is. I do agree with Mr. Weiss, and I do agree with Councilman Wyrick. There are some concerns, but I think the short term is let's get you in. The short term is let's make this successful. And the long term is, as you say, if you do this right, it's going to be a win-win. And at some point in time, if it's not done right, we'll make that decision. So I am for it based on that reason.
Thank you. Lance, I do have one question, if you can come up. One person raised the issue about having to get tickets through Ticketron, or Ticketmaster, I guess it is. And the fee. What is the fee that Ticketmaster takes if they buy a ticket?
It's based on price. So if the ticket, and it's a sliding scale, but if the ticket's under 20, then it's a $3 fee. If it's over 100, it might go up as high as an $8 to $10 or $12 fee.
Okay.
But everybody hates Ticketmaster. I also got into a huge lawsuit with Ticketmaster. I took on my own ticketing, and then I found out what credit card discounts were and all of that. That's why I gave up and I went back to Ticketmaster, because I don't want to pay credit card fees. Bands don't want to pay credit card fees, so now we basically make the customer pay credit card fees. What we did for the city of Ojai, anybody who has a zip code within the city of Ojai that knows it, basically, when you go on Ticketmaster, you automatically get the fees back discounted to you. So even though you have to pay the fee, we discount the fee right back to you as a discount.
Okay. That was my only question.
Yeah. It's hard to get around the Ticketmaster. They're very good at what they do.
Yeah.
So.
Okay. Thank you. Well, let me just ask one other question. Have you looked at any other ticket? There are other ticket services other than Ticketmaster. Have you looked at any of them? Because the person that brought this to my attention said that there's some that are much less expensive.
Right, and I've been doing this for a long time with House of Blues and everything. I hate Ticketmaster, but I hate Eventbrite, and I hate brown bag tickets even more. Because trying to get your money from them, and them double charging, and them screwing up the ticketing, it's, I don't know. And that's an opinion. Absolute opinion, but.
Okay, thank you.
I sued Ticketmaster, you can check. I sued them, and I had to go back to them.
Okay.
Mayor
Thank you,
Blatz.
Lance. Yes.
I do have a
Council.
question for
Okay.
Mr.
Lance?
Sorry, keep it. So, yeah. So my concern that I raised was the amount of concert you could potentially have. It sounds like I don't have an issue with splitting the time in terms of going in the fall and having you the ability to schedule, you have rights to half of the calendar. My concern is, so what I heard from you is, could we have a maximum amount of concerts?
Absolutely.
That you could fit in?
You want to take the minimum off and put the maximum
or
on?
Put a minimum and a maximum in, but
The
give
only
you
issue I have is this. I'd say yes, but I would be afraid it would take 6 months to decide what the maximum
Well, if we
would
could
be.
amend that here, I mean, that would be the easy, if the council agrees to it, a maximum of 17, like.
I looked at it this way. There's 4 to 5 solid months of good weather, and if you do 2 concerts per month, then you're at 10. At 3 concerts per month, that puts you at 15. So I'm believing it's going to end up between 10 and 15, or 17 is fine with me.
Okay, great.
Okay. Mayor Pro Tem Lyric?
With your indulgence, I'd like to go through a series of very specific questions.
Okay.
Real quick. I'm going to give up on the net thing. Okay. Would you be, these are going to be very specific questions. Would you be on the provision that says SVV shall book a minimum of 10 events each year per the terms of this agreement? Would you have an objection if we put in a provision unless waived by the city?
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay.
But in waived
You would
by the
not
city?
object?
If
Yeah,
I
in
asked
other
you
words,
to do less?
there might be extraordinary circumstances where there's a problem, and if you're bound to have to do a minimum of 10, even though it's not in your interest nor in the city's interest.
That's fine.
Would there be a problem including?
I am totally
phrase
cool with
unless
that
waived by
statement.
the city?
Yes.
Oh, you wouldn't have a problem with that?
Yeah, and we're going to probably know what we book, because once we come up in September, I'll probably, by January, announce what the summer schedule will be.
That's attachment A, page 4 of 11. I just want to know.
Okay.
I'm looking for flexibility and a good relationship.
I'm
Okay.
fine with that.
All right. Do you have an issue on Part B that I raised, 9B, where the exclusive rights for booking for commercial events would be limited to the SVV dates?
I don't know how to say this without sounding, there are only 3 companies nationwide that do all the concerts, and then there's me.
So you'd be afraid of us bringing somebody else in?
The 3 other, if you want to name them, I will give you the names of the
Okay.
companies
And
that I
I
don't want.
understand that concern, and that's not what I'm getting to.
Right.
You understand what my concern was?
Yeah, I just want.
Definition of concern, of commercial for the city dates, and getting into a quibble about whether, it was, a homegrown venture, and whether it was commercial or not, whether they had the proper nonprofit papers signed. I don't know how to address your concern without addressing my concern.
Mayor Pro Tem, if I
Yes.
may, we have some suggested language
Okay.
to address that concern.
All right.
We would like to add or request that we add another sentence to paragraph B to give some clarity to this issue, that the city may book its own events, including city-sponsored events or nonprofit events.
That's great.
Okay,
That
good.
way, it's clear in terms of, they don't have to be 501c3 or anything like that.
That's worded to pick up both legit 501c3 nonprofits and the classic unincorporated nonprofit community association.
Okay, good. Real quick, on page 7 of 11, attachment A, 4-11 on the depreciation. Would you accept language that said something to the effect of, shall reimburse SVV for the undepreciated value of the equipment at time of termination only if said depreciation schedule is submitted and accepted in writing by the city prior to installation?
How about prior to purchase?
Prior to purchase is fine.
That's fine. So when I go to buy equipment that's specifically for this, I will submit it to you.
Right.
And it will not exceed $200,000.
And it's accepted in writing and everybody's
And
clear.
it's a 5-year depreciation is what the
Absolutely.
IRS, yeah.
Okay, we're okay with that?
And Mayor Pro Tem, on that particular sentence, I was going to suggest a further option to consider. At the end of all of that language, add or return the sound and lighting equipment back to SVV. Is another option.
I'm really not hung up on that.
Yeah, and a
I
lot of the
understand you.
equipment might be bought for this specific venue.
Yeah, that's
so-
my concern. I agree with you.
Yeah,
I just want clarity at the front end.
Just
Well,
wanted to offer the option. That's fine.
I also think we need to talk to that point, is the fact that Lance may be purchasing this equipment, but we've come to the conclusion through the experience here that he's not going to leave that equipment here, and he's not going to put up permanent stationary lighting. He'll bring this to the venue. So,
And I'm just, all I'm saying is that if it's in here as a termination clause, that it be upfront and understood at the time the commitment is made.
okay.
Right, and if I could make the suggestion, let's put it at Lance's option. I mean, this says that we have to pay him for the equipment. Well, if he wants the equipment back and we're not going to pay him, then,
Oh, well, no.
yeah.
Right.
Then we just say that it will either be paid according to the depreciation schedule or return to Sterling Ventures at Sterling Ventures'
No problem.
option. Okay?
And then in part 15, on that ambiguity, why not just delete the last sentence? The sentence that reads, if one party serves notice of proposed extension, the other party is silent, and the agreement shall be extended for a further 4-year period, provided
I
the
have
city.
no idea what that means. I did not.
Why don't we
put that
just
in.
eliminate that sentence, because we don't know what it means?
That's fine. We had some alternate language,
works too.
but I don't think we need that in there. I think.
Take it out of there.
I think we're fine with that. The intent obviously was that both parties need to approve it. There wouldn't be any silent approval.
And that's all I have, and I'm okay with those changes.
You're okay.
With those changes.
I'm sorry. I would, I apologize. Occasionally, city government runs a little slower than business does, and I would not like for Mr. Sterling to be in a situation where the council has not been able to come together and actually get to the item and submit writing extending the contract, whereby he could potentially be behind in his production schedule. And by being silent and not taking up the matter, it would allow him to remain on schedule regardless of city business.
And would that only happen every 4 years? Because every year, it's
That's every 4 years, and my
Correct.
rejoinder to that is that's a staff matter to get it before council for us to act on it.
Agreed.
Okay. All right.
I'm good.
Any
I'm
other
ready to vote
comments?
for that with those changes.
I have a couple, if I may.
Yes.
Oh, and then there's the issue of the 10,000 reduction.
Yes. Just one quick note. When we drafted this, we were thinking we were going to get it to council prior to September. It states under Section 9 that in each year the agreement is in effect, city and SVV shall annually determine in writing no later than September 1st for the following calendar year those dates to be under exclusive city and SVV control. We would just offer that if the agreement is entered into, that for the first year that this agreement is in effect for 2016, we would set that date as October 1st.
And that's fine. And then the recommendation for reducing the deposit?
Did you have a question on that? I'm sorry.
What is it?
Oh, it was, in the recommendation, it was to reduce it from 10,000 to 5,000. I'm sorry, I didn't make that more clear.
Thank you.
All right, any further questions? No? I'll entertain a motion.
Let me try. I'll move to approve the agreement with Sterling Venue Ventures LLC for the use of the Libby Bowl with determination to reduce advance deposit to the maintenance fund from 10,000 to 5,000 and include the amendments made by Mayor Pro Tem Wyrick on section.
Maybe we could just say as amended.
Oh, as amended. 'Cause
I'm happy to recount what I understand the amendments are.
Well, I also want to include my amendment of the maximum of 17 also, in that same bullet.
Oh.
If the council,
Minimum 10, maximum of 17
with unless,
caveat, if you guys want me to do less, that you tell me.
yes,
You're
that
okay?
was going to be,
Oh, if he's okay, then.
yeah, he was,
Okay. All right, Matt, do you want to recite that for the record?
Sure. No, starting with, this is all in attachment A to, starting on page 4-5. On page 4-8, at the top, section 5, subsection I, SCV shall book a minimum of 10 events and a maximum of 17 events each year per the terms of this agreement unless waived by city. On that same page, at the bottom, section 9A, first sentence, for each year the agreement is in effect, city and SVV shall mutually determine in writing no later than October 1st for the initial term and September 1st for the following terms for the following calendar year, those dates to be under exclusive city and SVV control. Continues as is. For section 9A, subsection 5, Art in the Park, weekend of Memorial Day, not preceding. We're now on page 4-9, section 9B. SVV shall have exclusive rights for booking all commercial events scheduled at the Bowl. The city may book its own events, including nonprofit events or city-sponsored events. Let's see. Page 411, section 14, termination, subsection A, subsection Romanet 2. Either party may terminate agreement 180 days after service of notice of proposed termination without cause. SUV intends to invest up to $200,000 in sound and lighting equipment during the initial term of the agreement. If city terminates without cause during the initial term, it shall reimburse SVV for the undepreciated value of the equipment per the submitted depreciation schedule submitted at the time of purchase of the, at the time of termination, or return the sound and lighting equipment to SVV at SVV's option. On the same page 411.
And submitted and accepted in writing by the city.
And accepted in writing, all right.
And prior to purchase
Prior to
was the
purchase.
language.
Accepted by city in writing prior to purchase, all right. City in writing. And then on the same page, section 15, delete in its entirety the last sentence, which previously read, if one party serves a notice of proposed extension and the other party is silent, then the agreement shall be extended for a further 4-year period, provided that the city's approval must be in writing after city council approval of each extension. Delete that sentence entirely. And that was it. That's all the changes that I understood.
Does that encompass all the changes?
That
All
doesn't
right.
include the 5K.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
We have a second.
Okay. Any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Councilmember Lara?
Yes.
Councilmember Haney?
Yes.
Councilmember Clapp?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Wyrick?
Yes.
Mayor Blatz?
Yes. Thanks.
Dinner is served.
All right, the council has a protocol that we can't take up any new items after 10:30. It's now 11 o'clock, so we're going to have to, unfortunately, for those of you that are here that wanted to speak to us, we're going to be continuing item number 5. I don't know, is that item time sensitive?
It is. If I may, at this time, I don't know if this would be appropriate or not, but since we've run into a backlog here and we have a lot of things pressing on us, and at some time we just need to find time to get this stuff done, I don't know if the council would be willing to consider taking the items that we were not able to get to tonight and perhaps call a special meeting for next Tuesday so that we can specifically take up the budget, the building and safety contract, the beekeeping ordinance, which I know we've had several people come to, and if we can get to it, the purchase of the land at 205 Grand Avenue. Because I'm concerned if we carry these over to the 27th, we're just going to be in the same boat again.
I'd be for that as long as we don't add anything else to it.
And I was going to recommend that too. Thank you, Councilmember.
Okay, any objections to that by the council? No? All right, then, items 5, 6, 7, and 8, as well as, well, as far as the consent item that Mr. Blatz requested to speak to us, I think the best thing to do is to have you come back during public comment at this special meeting. We can't take the item up now.
I think I'll defer to Mr. Summers, but since it was already heard, I don't think I'm only going to be short, but I don't think you had the same issue because it was a motion for reconsideration.
Mr. Summers?
If the council wasn't all inclined to reconsider that item, that would have to be motioned for tonight. If you took, Mr. Blatz, of course, is always welcome to speak at public comment, but it would be general public comment at the next meeting. This would have been done and done. At the next meeting, the council would not have the ability to
Normally, I would
change
defer.
the decision.
The issue is I want to make sure this is in the record for the decision that was voted on tonight.
The record on that has
If we
closed,
take
but you could take a comment now.
Short comment?
No.
Okay.
No.
Then you have the floor.
Well, first, I'd like to ask that that my comment be included in the record for that particular issue, and I defer to the council on accepting that or not. But I would suggest that, given the time constraints on the situation, that I ask that it be included. There is some new information that's come out since the original vote last week, or I should say 2 weeks ago, and that's one thing I want to address. The vote count that was decided in the Taormina vote has changed significantly from every different iteration in this entire process, which is completely unacceptable to my clients and doesn't make any sense. From the time that the HPC voted on this particular issue initially, there was a report that there were 56 yes votes. Those 56 yes votes then turned into 40 yes votes in the administrative report for the city council meeting last Tuesday, or 2 Tuesdays ago. Then, we requested information from the city manager and from the staff about how that vote count was calculated, and then that vote count changed to 46 votes officially in a statement from Mr. McClary last Friday. There is no explanation how this vote has changed so significantly without any legitimate reason or ability to verify these votes. The administrative report that was issued redacted literally all information that had any value regarding the vote. And because the vote at one point was stated to be the exact number, it's imperative that this issue is looked at and there is some ability for anyone to review what those votes actually are. But that vote count, again, was changed after the meeting, was reiterated at a different number. It was changed from the staff report to a different number when we requested information from Mr. McClary. On top of that, the HPC draft minutes that were attached to the administrative report for the council meeting 2 weeks ago, when those minutes came up for approval in the HPC meeting this last week, strangely, though the statement that said there were 56 yes votes was gone. It was erased from the draft minutes to the proposed minutes, which again doesn't make any sense. On top of this, I want to reiterate that the council has admitted that they have decided on legal advice that they are going to not require the following of their own statutes regarding the 7-day notice. There was no HPC report created and then submitted to the council within 7 days of that initial HPC vote as required by the statute. It was not provided to all of the affected property owners, and it was also not available at City Hall as per the code requires. Additionally to that, the code itself, the interpretation that there is only one or more of those criteria that are required to be met is incorrect. It doesn't state that inside of the actual statutes, and if that was the requirement, even if it isn't the requirement, depending on how you read it, the statute on its face is unconstitutional. It doesn't pass substantive due process rules regarding how you can actually pass a historic district. All of these concerns are extensive, and with the council deciding that they are not going to honor a 7-day notice requirement, not explain any of the voting, there's a high likelihood that you should understand that this issue may end up in litigation, and these issues are going to have to be fought out in front of a judge, which is not optimal for anyone in this situation, especially under procedural rules. If you want to argue about the subjective factors of history and architecture, that is one issue, but to literally admit to violating your own codes and then agree that you're just not going to apply them in this given circumstance is very disappointing. Again, whether we talk about the merits of it or not, the actual procedures that this council or previous councils have written up should be followed to the T, especially on an issue that's affecting private property rights and affecting a large number of members of the community in the Taramina district. And a lot of those individuals who did not show up are silent, cannot be here, could not make it here, but they did vote against it. And they did not put yes votes in or rescinded their votes. Yet again, the council is completely ignoring any legitimacy or transparency on this particular issue. Whether you agree with it being historic or not, the procedures that have gone through by this council are really not what the standard has been created for how we do business in Ojai. And there should not be an exception made for this circumstance because it is not worthy of changing how we handle these types of issues. We just should not be throwing out the codes just because we all agree to something or so many people show up. That's an inappropriate way to govern. Whether you agree or disagree whether it's historic, you cannot just simply ignore notice requirements, ignore your own statutes. It's very, very frustrating to my clients. The vote count still hasn't been articulated correctly. I ask that the council again review this, look at it again. If they want to do it, I suggest hitting the reset button. I understand that you may not be reconsidering what we've asked for tonight, but there is, without a doubt, impropriety and a lack of transparency on this issue and an admission of not following the statute. And that is very disappointing. Thank you.
Thank you. I don't think there's any comment to that, is there?
I will only comment if the council directs me to comment.
Does anybody want to comment? No? Okay, no comment then. All right. We are going to adjourn to closed session.
Tonight on your closed session agenda, you have two items under Government Code Section 54957, Public Employee Performance Evaluation of the Interim City Manager, and under Government Code Section 54957.6, Conference with Labor Negotiator. The negotiator is Mayor Paul Blatz, and the unrepresented employee is the City Manager. And I don't expect a report tonight.
Okay. We're not expecting a report out. We are now adjourned to closed session.